welcome everyone. The January 30th, 2025 meeting of the Oak Park Municipal Advisory Council, known as the Oak Park MAC, will now come to order. I'm Brian Trushinsky, I am the chair, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Oak Park MAC up here, Supervisor Gorell and Ashley Batista, Chief of Staff, we want to welcome all of you here this evening to our first of the year meeting of the MAC. Welcome. It's going to be a heavy agenda tonight, so we'll try to move things along quickly, but there's some extremely important issues that the community has here, and they want to be able to participate, so we will move it along as quickly as we can. At this point, I am going to do a roll call to ensure that we have a quorum. So when I call your name, Council, please just say present. Jane Nye.
Here. Michelle
Santucci.
Here.
Brianna Adams.
Present.
J.L. Diaz.
Present.
Florence Wang is absent. Brian Trushinsky is here. We have a quorum. Excellent. Thank you. At this time, I would like to call, first of all, I'd like to welcome Brianna Adams and Jane Nye to the MAC, our new members, and Jane returning. And we're looking forward to a very productive year and some great new ideas that will represent our community. And so welcome. Congratulations on your election results.
Thank you so much.
And on that, I'll have Brianna do her first duty on the MAC and ask her to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brianna. Supervisor Gorell will be coming a little later. He does have another meeting, a prior engagement, but he will definitely be here tonight to provide comments and also share with you his recent Ventura County Board of Supervisor board letter regarding Cal Edison. So that will come later in the agenda. At this point, County Council Jeff Barnes is here, and he's going to do the ceremony of the swearing in of our new MAC members. And would you like Jane first? Or are we doing together?
Let's just do it together until we give a full agenda. So.
Okay. Want to go up?
Yeah, so Ronna and Jane, if you could. Yeah.
So take this one.
Yeah. You want to come out? Okay, so if you could raise your right hand, and then repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jane Nye. I, Brianna Adams.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend.
That I will support and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California. And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California. And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely. That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties.
Upon which I am about to enter.
About which I am about to enter. Upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Appreciate it. Have a great night. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the MAC minutes of the previous meeting of November 21st, 2024. Council, you have received this information in your packet. You've reviewed it. Are there any errors, omissions, or changes that you wish to declare at this time? Jane?
No.
Michelle?
No?
Brianna?
No.
JL? No. None from Brian. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 21st, 2024?
I so move.
Seconder?
I second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And Florence Wang abstains, not here. Let the record show, unanimous. Okay. Next item that we will be doing on here is we will be going into looking at the approval of 2025 positions on the Oak Park MAC. We have the position of chair, vice chair, and committee members. We have a number of committees. We have the County Service Area Number 4 Landscape Committee. We have the Triumphal Water and Sanitation District Liaison, MAC Liaison. We have a liaison on the Oak Park Unified School District. We have representatives on the Legislative Committee of Ventura County, and we have liaison on the Fire Safety Council. Let's start with chair. Does anyone wish to be the chair as a start? I would be willing to serve again. Is it?
Because it says here the approval of the positions. I didn't know that it is the approval, or we're going to
Nominate.
We're going to elect.
nominate something.
Correct.
Because, yeah, it doesn't say that it's going to be in nomination.
Yeah, the
We're gonna
election
nominate for this.
Coming year, yeah.
for this year. Okay, so
So, Chair Trzynski, I think you've done a fine job this past 6 months or so stepping in. And so I nominate you to continue in the role of chair in 2025.
I'll second that.
I would accept that position if council so chooses.
No, we need to elect though. All of us need to say we're voting.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Carried.
We will accept.
I accept now. Vice chair at this time. I believe that over the past year, my duties and roles have been extremely helped by Michelle. Michelle has been a great vice chair. She has stepped in on a number of tasks and assignments that to help share some of the administrative actions, including the tickler log that we have, and I would like to nominate Michelle for vice chair of the MAC.
I'll second that.
Okay. Let us vote on that for Michelle Santucci to be vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Carried. Let's go on to committee work. The County Service Area Number 4 Landscape Committee, which also is a liaison for Rancho Simi Recreation and Park. We do not have a planning committee, but we do keep in touch with Rancho Simi staff on the items that they are dealing with. Is there anyone who wishes? We learned tonight, before this meeting, we had from County Council a Brown Act training session, the California Brown Act, which is the laws governing elected bodies, including ourselves, Board of Supervisors, and we can have up to 2 MAC members on a committee, or just the one. Any more than 2 we cannot have. So, who would like to be on the Landscape Committee?
So let me ask a question. So I think as a MAP, we have to establish how many committees we're going to have. And if there's only going to be one committee, we have to say that there's going to be one committee, and there's a landscape committee, and no other committees will be established. And then from this committee that we're going to have, we'll have to establish who's going to be the chair for this specific committee. And I think that's how we should proceed with this approval of the committee members' position for 2025.
We have liaisons on the MAC.
So the
These-
liaisons are not a committee actually, so it's a,
Okay.
so you just appoint who is the liaison, but as far as the committee is concerned, which is a legislative body, so to speak, that is subject to the Brown Act, it needs to be ratified as an official committee, and in that committee, we have to identify who is the committee chair. I think that's how we should proceed.
Okay. We have one MAC committee. That's the CSA number 4 committee.
Okay. As far as CSA 4, that's how we got established, but as far as MAP for Oak Park is concerned, I would like to propose to have a landscape committee established for Oak Park MAP.
And I
That's
think-
my motion.
Yeah, and I think we also need to figure out how we get residents to be part of that committee as well.
I hear you. This is not on the agenda tonight. This is just assigning a MAC representative to a committee. If the council wants to establish representation, that is to be on a future agenda because it is not on the agenda tonight.
So, so my question is, how can we assign a committee member to a committee that is not existent, that is not approved by the MAC?
It is a committee. It's a standing committee. It has been approved by the MAC
When was that?
during Linda Parks' era.
So we are saying that there's only, this landscape committee is now an official legislative committee under the Brown Act.
Yes.
So we don't need to establish a committee for this.
No. We're asking for which one of us on the MAC wants to be on that committee as chair. That's all we're doing tonight. Okay? So,
All right. So, yeah.
is there anyone on the council that wishes to be on the landscape committee?
So I think we should nominate though, right?
Okay, go for it.
So I nominate Brian Jasinski as the chairman of the landscape committee for Oak Park MAC.
Do I have a seconder?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay. I heard no one else wanted to be, or does anyone else wish to join me on this? I'll go through. Jane?
No,
Michelle?
No?
Brianna?
no.
JL?
No.
Okay, there it is. I'm it. I'm happy to be it, and so forth.
But are we including residents who want to be on the committee? Like how,
We
are
will,
we making public how that can happen?
it's not on our agenda tonight.
Can we add that to the agenda?
We can add that
future
onto
agenda?
the agenda for the
Please.
next time. There is a section in our agenda where we
Right.
do that, yes. Okay? Yeah. Liaison for the Triumphal Water and Sanitation District. Jane, you've been on it.
Yes,
Along-
and I'm also a member of that board, so I think that would be appropriate for me to continue in that position.
Okay. I would nominate Jane Nye for that.
I would second that, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next one is the Oak Park Unified School District Liaison. Who is our representative currently, like in 2024?
Me.
That was jail. Okay. Would
Now
anyone?
I nominate
Brianna,
Brianna
Okay.
for that
happy to do
position.
that.
Would you do
I'll
that?
second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next one is the Legislative Committee. This is currently Michelle and I are on this. Every 2 weeks, the Ventura County Board of Supervisors meet on a Tuesday. They have an agenda, a very long, full day, very long day, and representatives from the MACs get to see the draft agenda ahead of time, and we review it to see if there are any issues, any items out of the 100 that they're dealing with that day that pertain to Oak Park. We identify it and see if there's any concerns, and we bring that to the attention of Supervisor Gorell. I would nominate Michelle to continue to do so.
Thank you. I would love to continue to.
Yeah, I have a comment though. Isn't that like an automatic that the chair and the vice chair is the automatic members of this committee?
That was my
Liaison. That's how I understand. So we don't need to like nominate either Michelle or Brian. You're automatically part of that
My
liaison.
understanding too.
That's
I'll
how I understand that.
Ashley?
Yeah, that's how it has been in the past, but
Okay, all right. is that the council's pleasure to keep the chair and vice chair?
That's my
Yes.
understanding.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Michelle, you're back on.
Likewise.
Last one here for liaison is the Oak Park Fire Safety Council, and JL was on that. Last year?
Oh, yeah, you want to nominate
I-
Michelle? Do you want to do that?
I was going to nominate you, JL. You've been doing such a fine job.
That's okay. All right, fine.
I second that.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Congratulations, JL.
Thank you, JL.
All right, excellent. All right, so we got that completed. Next, we will be reviewing the agenda for this evening's MAC meeting of January 30th. Council, you have received the packet. Do you have any changes that you wish to make this evening to the agenda? Jane?
I do not.
Michelle?
I would like to pull two consent agenda.
Oh,
items.
I think we'll
Okay.
get to that.
Okay, great.
Brianne?
No.
JL?
So, agenda number 19 and 20, are these subject for approval or just for comments? Because what do we do with, especially in number 20, it's a draft work plan. Do we need to like review extensively and need to approve this work plan?
Item number 20, the Oak Park MAC 2025 draft work plan, yes, we will be approving that tonight. We've seen it in October, we've seen it in November, and then we waited until this evening when Brianna joined us so she would be able to have an opportunity to provide input. And the public did provide input in October, November, and tonight.
Okay.
Are you okay with that then?
Yeah.
Okay. The chair does want to make a couple of changes, please. On item 11, Supervisor Jeff Gurrell comments. I'd like to move that out of order until Supervisor Gurrell arrives later on. So at the appropriate time, I'm not sure when he arrives, so I don't know what position in the agenda we'll move it to. If we look at our agenda on page 8, it's, I think, some typos. There's 2 number 19s on here. It says MAC Budget and Landscape Contract, which is 19, then Ventura County Sheriff's Office is 18, then MAC 2024 Achievements is 19. I just want to renumber these for tonight, please, so that it states here MAC Budget and Landscape Contract. Instead of it being 19, it's number 18. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office and Office of Emergency Services to address community questions and concerns regarding evacuation plans and emergency preparedness. That would be number 19. The MAC 2024 Achievements would be number 20. Just so we know, we've already approved that in November, so tonight we'll just, that shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. But we'll just let the public know it's already been approved, the achievements. The MAC 2025 draft work plan would be number 21. The 2025 MAC meeting calendar would be 22, and then adjournment number 23. So with those changes, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
Also move.
A seconder?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Carries. Okay. Next item will be on here. Let's just pull over here. We will now go to public comments. If you wish to speak to the council on an item that is not on the agenda, could you come forward to the podium and say your name and where you're from and what the item is, what you wish to address. If you are here to speak on an item that's on the agenda, when the item comes up, we'll call on public comment at this time. So is there anyone who wants to come forward and talk about, could could you please come to the podium? We appreciate that very much.
So first off, I want to thank you all for being on this board because I know these are thankless jobs and I really appreciate it. Secondly, this is my first time coming here, so if I make a fool of myself, give me a pass. One of the things I really want to talk about, and I think a big concern for all of us, is fire safety in landscaping. Major concern. I once called because of Los Arcos. There's a lot of trees that are on Los Arcos that are right up against houses. It's really a dangerous situation, and a lot of them are pine trees, and we all know that's just kindling. I mean, I think none of us can put a blind eye and a deaf ear to what just happened. We lived through 2018. I was part of that casualty. So I don't want to see anyone else go through it. I'm very concerned about those pine trees. When they were planted, they were all done in good earnest. Nobody knew how big they would get, but now they need to come out. And I know it's a big expense, and I'm not saying take down all the trees. We need to plant the right trees as these roots start to die. You know, Larry Williams and Ventura Fire Department has given us a great list of trees and what we should have. I called once before to get them trimmed because the homeowners that are on Myrtle are losing their home insurance because of these trees. You know, there's a 5-foot barrier. I'm happy to say I'm one of the first people to get the wildfire protection certificate. And it's a great thing, but we really need to go forward. And I would beg the committee to please look at these pine trees. They need to come down at a good time. I know we don't want to get into nesting. They need to come down early. And you've been great before. I'm just begging for that because it's terrifying.
Where are these pine trees, ma'am?
They're on Los Arcos, across from the park, right across the road, and they're absolutely against the houses. I'm on the HOA committee for Hillcrest, and I've gone in these people's backyards. It is a disaster. We do have a new HOA for Hillcrest where we are at, President. We went on a walk. I'm going again tomorrow. We're taking out a lot of eucalyptus that need to come out because they're actually hitting into the wall, which, by the way, those pine trees are kind of doing the same thing in some of the other ones. We really need to address it. And I'm sure there's a lot of other areas, but this was just too real, you know? We now know what can happen, and it's ugly. And you guys have been great. I made a call once before, and trees were trimmed. It's not enough. It drops in their yards. The homeowners have called me over, and I would greatly appreciate, since you're landscaping and you're now fire, and I have your names in my book. So
Yeah.
I would be greatly appreciative if you guys could take a look at that and do a follow-up. That's it. My name is Janet Jackson, by the way. I didn't say it because I thought everybody would think I was lying.
Did you
but
say
it is
Janet
my name.
Jackson?
It was. Everybody's always very disappointed once they see me. Yeah, that is me.
Well, Ms. Jackson,
wow.
you did an excellent job standing up here. You didn't make a fool of yourself. You were extremely good. Very, very well done. So you said Los Arcos
Los
and...
Arcos. It's right
Yeah, yeah. And
Churchwood, Los Arcos, and Canaan. And
Okay.
she knows. I could see her nodding
Okay.
her cute little head.
All
Yeah,
right.
she knows where they
Okay.
are.
I think the one thing we have found as a MAC and county is when you drive down through Oak Park, Canaan, it's like a quilt work. Think of a quilt. There are so many landowners that some of them are county land, which is what we have jurisdiction in. Some are HOA, which we can't control. Some are owned by water district and so forth. We can work with some public agencies. We can certainly work and try to reach out to an HOA, but we really don't have a lot of jurisdiction. So I think what would be good would be to meet with you in the field, meet there, so I can see what we're talking, and then we can determine if it in fact is county in our
It's
CS.
yours, because I
It's
actually
ours.
did my homework.
Good.
Yeah,
Then
I've been doing my homework for like a year on these trees.
Bravo.
They are yours. Larry Williams actually came down. He
Ah.
helped me plot it. They are your
Okay.
trees.
I'll make sure that our landscape committee will.
Thank you.
Get
You
that,
guys have been
yeah.
great, and I thank you
Yeah.
very much
Welcome.
for everything.
Well, thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
And I'm gonna give it to you.
Can I get your autograph, Janet? Is there anybody else from the public that would, from our audience, that wants to speak? Sir, please. Welcome, sir.
My name is Michael Jackson. Just a joke. No, my name is Joel Goldies. I'm an Oak Park resident of 25 years. And I also wanted to speak about fire defense, and it's certainly much on our minds with the recent fires. I was canceled. I mentioned in the last meeting that our homeowners insurance was canceled because of having non-native plants too close to our house. So we were able to get new insurance through a better company, fortunately. But in the last couple of months, I've tried to make some real strong measures to take out the non-native plants right around my house. As soon as I can, I'll be putting in gravel and succulents close to the house, following the state's recommendation of the zone zero, within 5 feet of the house. And I live in the Montego tract and walked around there this morning, and it's nearly 200 homes there. I found that of those 200, there are 20 that have what seem to be succulents or native-looking plants. To me, I'm not a plant biologist. With gravel, about 8 of those have bark that they've installed, which I understand to be a terrible fire hazard. That caused some houses to burn in the Woolsey fire when some new bark was ignited by embers and then blew into some houses. And also, I just learned today, caused a lot of smoke and soot damage to houses that didn't burn down. So it would be great if we can encourage homeowners and property owners in Oak Park to make these changes. It's something that we can all do. And as I think I mentioned in the last meeting, it can give us a feeling that we can actually do something. So it's left me less anxious. When we did evacuate with a warning because of the Kenneth fire, I felt confident that my lot was in better shape than it was 2 months ago. We're in a zero lot line situation, so we share property lines with neighbors. And I've been having some issues with neighbors on both sides about bark that was recently installed and about ancient hedges that just haven't been trimmed or kept up in probably 20 years. So I'm sure that those would go up quite quickly when the winds come from the northeast, which I learned in a postmortem meeting down in Malibu after the Woolsey fire. I hadn't realized that the winds always come from the northeast. So to that end, a plant biologist at that meeting said that she planted coast live oak trees, which are called ember catchers. And that was 20 years ago. And they're now more mature, so they're on the northeast corner of her property. And she's got some sort of a natural buffer there. So I went and collected some acorns and sprouted these acorns. So I have them. I thought I was going to plant them in my front yard, but there's just not enough room there. So I'll do some other sort of fire-resistant plant. But I have a tray of these acorns that are sprouted. So if you'd like to take some and give it a try, putting them in the ground, put them in your fridge in the dark for a while. That's what I did to sprout them if you don't want to deal with them yet. And you can put them in the ground, let the tap roots go down, water them every month or two, and with any luck, if you overplant a little bit, so you allow some to die off, you can have a buffer there to start to protect your property. If we can become, I just read in the agenda just now about these fire-wise
We have 20 more
communities.
seconds.
If Oak Park can become one of those and become a leader, the fire-wise communities, I'm not sure if we are, but it would be great if we can all come together and see what we can do to, as Janet said, eliminate eucalyptus trees, Norfolk Island pines, other invasive and highly flammable plants, and replace them with things that won't burn as readily. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. Just one other thing. Captain Larry Williams will tell us is that not just bark within 5 feet, but artificial turf. That's not allowed either.
Oh, great.
No artificial turf. Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes the public comment section. Now we'll go, next item is written comments. This is where the MAC will receive written comments, and I will ask each each MAC member if they have received any written comments and what they're on. Jane?
No,
Okay.
none.
Michelle?
I received one email, and I was going to bring it up as part of a consent agenda item pull.
Okay, then remind me
I
on
will.
that one, okay?
I will.
Okay, Brienne?
No.
JL?
No.
Okay, Trzynski the chair has a duty that when a written submission is provided and it's on the agenda, the chairman must read it. So bear with me, folks. It's from Mr. Stephen Kozel. It's probably, well, it's a shorter one than the last one. The last one was 3 pages. This is a page and a half. So just I am required to read it, and it's very important information that Stephen's provided, and I see you right there, and I thank you, sir. Why don't you come up to the podium and read it, please? That would be really great. Community participation is a great thing. You may have to speak a little louder because of the mask, Stephen. And thank you for these comments.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'll more or less dispense with the introductions
Yes.
and the niceties. The 3 issues I brought up, the first was speed limit on Lindero Canyon Road. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when you go from Canaan south on Lindero Canyon by the shopping center, on the other side of the street, the speed limit's 50 miles an hour. If you look at the side of the street coming north up Canaan on Lindero, it's 35 miles an hour by the shopping center. I checked to see whether or not I could report it to VC Reports, and they said it's not in their jurisdiction. So I want to bring it up to see how we can look into this, because clearly it's too high speed limit. And I don't know if that was a mistake that occurred when they took all the signs down to work on the interconnect project, but I'm just not sure. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Thought I turned everything off. Second one is I've noticed recent comments on social media in Oak Park, specifically with regard to e-bikes. Quite a few, in fact, of people complaining about e-bikes, usually younger adults or teenagers, late at night going fast on Canaan, Conifer, both sides, waking people up, being generally a disturbance, a public nuisance. This is also dangerous, so I wanted to bring that to the attention of the MAC to see if there's anything we can do, and maybe look at the sheriff reports, because if you look at these reports on social media, people claim they've called the sheriff, but nothing's happened. So I would say do it evidence-based, look through it to see the evidence, to see whether or not we've actually reported this to the sheriff, and if so, are these just nuisances, or is there some action that we can actually undertake to try to improve safety? Someone's going to get hurt, and we know about it. So I think we need to perhaps look a little bit more into this. The third is Rancho Simi Park and Recs. A lot of open space around here. We love it. I'm on Friends of Oak Park Open Space. We're trying to reduce the fire risk too by taking out invasives, especially palm trees. Oh my goodness. Those things are, if you saw the Malibu fires, you saw what happened on Sunset Boulevard when they were trying to evacuate and the palm trees caught fire. That being said, one of the things I noticed, because we have quite an expansive view from our house up on Smoke Tree, is during the entire episode of fires, starting on the 7th of January through the last week, people are up there when we have high winds, walking around or standing up on the ridges, probably taking pictures, I don't know. But I think we need to look into the fact is, like Costco, the Canal open space area, perhaps we should teach or advise our residents not to go into the open space during those periods of time. People like to use their drones. People do all sorts of things. And drones especially, if they crash in high winds, they have lithium batteries which can cause a fire. And if a fire were to ignite on, let's see, the morning of the 7th at our house, we were clocking winds at over 70 miles an hour. That would have been a catastrophe. So I want to start the conversation with both the county and with Rancho Simi Rec and Parks to see what can we do, if not close the trails during red flag events, or at least teach. And that's it. And I thank you for your time.
Stephen, you have one more item on your letter there regarding Friends of Oak Park, and
We would like to publicize Friends of Oak Park Open Space much more and have a way to get announcements out to the community. We have our entrance signs right now, but those are oftentimes busy. And a lot of times we try to get last-minute events together to water our oak trees that we've planted up in Oak Canyon, to take out invasive species. We're working with Rancho Simi to try to get a permit so that we can actually do on-the-spot invasive species removal without the long, cumbersome process that we used to have. And I was hoping that we could work with Supervisor Gorell's office to publicize these and have a way to have it on maybe the website and any other ideas you folks have about communication. One of the things I've noticed is communication needs to be improved. Everybody says we need to do it, but when you look around, we don't see it too much. So I think that covers it.
Ashley, did you want to comment on that, the feasibility or what could happen there?
Yeah, Supervisor Grell's happy to have information in the newsletter. We have about 6,000 subscribers, happy to push it out on social media. Supervisor Grell's also interested in potentially doing some service projects here in Oak Park like we have in other areas of our district. So that's something to consider where we could gather a group of people and go out and help. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we will now move on to approving of the consent calendar or the consent agenda, which council you have and you've read. Is there any council member that wishes to pull an item for further discussion later in the agenda? Jane?
No.
Okay, Michelle?
Yes, I wish to pull item number 12, which is the Ventura County Fire Department report,
Okay,
and also item number 14, which is the California Highway Patrol report.
okay.
And
That's it? Okay. Brianna?
No.
Okay. Jail?
Same with Michelle. Number 12, I would like to get some more information regarding the what happened with the fire and from the Ventura County Fire Department.
Okay. The chair wishes to pull item 15, which is the CSA number 4 landscape report. Indicates that I don't have a report this week, but as of yesterday, county staff did provide a report and emailed it to Ashley and sent to me, so I want to report that. So it's full disclosure. So 12, 14, and 15 are pulled. We'll just. Yes?
We missed item number 10, council comments.
Oh, terribly sorry. Okay, I'll get to that next then, okay? Thank you, appreciate it. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, but with the pulling of 12, 14, and 15?
I move to.
Oh, you motion? I second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jane, appreciate that. Council comments. This is the time where the council may have been attending a community session, an event, something coming up. We want to announce that. Plus, we're on committees or liaison of committees, and so we would report out the latest information since we met last in November. So, Jane, would you like to go first?
I would. So I'm representing Trampo as the liaison, and I wanted to mention that a postcard did go out to all residents about a year in review for the water district. Also, the spring gardening classes will be announced shortly. And I just wanted to mention that one of our students, Arush Main, won the calendar contest, and his artwork is presented from the Metropolitan Water District. He's in February. He's a 7th grader at Medea Creek, and this is his artwork right here, and it's been published. So he's done an awesome job. That's it for me.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes, real briefly, both the chair and I are on the legislative council to Supervisor Gorell for the county of the Board of Supervisors. And as mentioned earlier, that we review the draft agenda and we provide feedback to Supervisor Gorell or questions that we feel are appropriate that might have an interest for Oak Park. Since the last meeting in November and all of the Board of Supervisor meetings since, we have not had any items that we felt required any input from us. It was not a great impact to Oak Park, other than what Supervisor Gorell has already posted, and he'll be speaking about tonight regarding the interest of having potentially a different energy provider.
Okay, thank you. Brianne?
No comment.
Comment. JL?
Yeah, so there's a lot of course, with the recent events with the wildfire, I was able to visit Altadena and Pacific Palisades, and it's really, no words can describe what you see, just the feeling of being defeated, for being unable to combat this fire situation that we have. So I'd just like to ask everyone to be vigilant in terms of making sure that your house is hardened for fire. And of course, there's a lot of information flying around, attending the insurance conferences. Sometimes they do that online as well, which we attended recently. And I think by next month, I would recommend a presentation of Oak Park Fire Safe Council to see what we are doing, especially on the Firewise, because there's a lot of Firewise communities out there right here in Oak Park, and there's a process for that. And since Janet, I know you're from Hillcrest, you can certify your community as Firewise.
I actually think you did get a conference on Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
And I expected to have done with Doc.
Yes, with dog. Yes.
Well, we can get this finalized, and as my brother said, that 5-foot barrier, that 200 fence is incredibly important.
Correct.
For the palm trees for this gentleman. They have got to come out.
There,
They
there,
are
yes.
dangerous.
There's a lot of things that you can do to become Firewise certified, and if you become certified, there are some insurance incentives associated with it, and of course the Fire Safe Council is very, very helpful in this respect. So glad that you're doing that. Thank you.
Okay. Jane, you had mentioned previously a couple of minutes ago about an item that you wanted to bring forward or would like to see in February. Do you recall what?
No, I don't recall. Is this a time that we could speak?
This,
to
yes,
or add to the
yeah.
agenda?
Once we go through the committee, then I'm moving around that direction. So, as we move in this other part of the agenda, if the council wants to have something on the February agenda, we can't discuss and debate it tonight, but you've heard from comments tonight from the public, and you may have thought other things. Now's the time to raise them. It creates the work, or it creates the agenda for next month. So, Jane, did you have
I don't
something?
remember.
Okay, if you do,
Okay,
bring
I'll
it up. Michelle?
No, other than what JL has already mentioned.
Okay. Brianna?
I was curious if we could get some more information or revisit the left turn coming off Los Arcos. Right now, you're not allowed to make a left turn, and that doesn't really make sense to me. I understand that it's helpful during the pickup and drop-off times for Oak Hills, but when it's not those times, I think it's prohibited for the residents that they're not able to make that left turn. So I'm just wondering if we can take another look at that and see if maybe the barrier that's physically there now could possibly be removed, and maybe instead signs could be put in place saying you can't make a left turn during certain hours, but then allowing the residents to make them during other times of day.
Excellent. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. The chair would like to have for next month's meeting some of the items that Mr. Kozel had raised in his correspondence. I'd like to have on the agenda the issue of Lindero Canyon Road and Canyon Road speed limits. I think we need to have a discussion definitely on that. The issue at May Boyers Park and e-bikes concerns me greatly, significantly actually. I really want to tackle this and work with the Sheriff's Department on actions. I understand the Sheriff's department did go out. There wasn't any citations, but I would like a lot more information on what can and cannot be done. And also working with Rancho Simi, it's their park. I'd like to see what they're doing as well. The other one that I want to have on there is a little more challenging one that Mr. Kozel raised, but the issue of more warnings for high winds and public warning, safety warnings. I think that should be on the agenda as well. So these are the ones that I would like to see. So, okay? Ashley, you have those down? Great. Thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry.
One
Go
more
ahead.
thing. So as far as agenda is concerned, so right now we just decided on one committee, which is the landscape committee. Maybe the board or the Oak Park MAC would like to think more about what kind of committee we'd like to establish in the future and discuss that on February. Because we might want to discuss having a finance committee, for example, which is looks at the budget and whatever is the work plan that we have. Maybe we can establish a committee associated with that to make sure that it gets executed well. So maybe establishing a committee for next meeting should be on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, of course, I would like to invite like I mentioned already, the Fire Safe Council. I think we need to listen to them in terms of what they're doing, and then the update on what is going on within Oak Park.
Great suggestion, Jill. Yeah, they're on the committee, so Ashley has that.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, at this point, consent is done. We're now moving into the regular agenda portion of our evening. We have presentations coming up. The first item on here, 16, is the Oak Park MAC request tickler log. For those who are not familiar with this, when we have meetings, we hear you. We're listening, and we're an advisory committee. We're not a city council. Like, we can't actually make final decisions. That's up to the Board of Supervisors, but we advise the Supervisor Gorell. We log all those, and we have it on a spreadsheet. And Michelle takes the lead and participate in it, and then we say, here's a task, and this is going to Public Works for landscaping or whatever, and we track it every meeting to see what the progress is. So it's online, so you'll see, we're being transparent, you'll see what we're accomplishing and what we're not accomplishing. So Michelle's going to take the lead here on this month's, we call tickler log.
Sure. And I do have a question, and just maybe it's my confusion, on the agenda items that were pulled from the consent. When are we going to cover those?
Thank you for asking. I was going to pull it late. Normally we pull the consent items, right, that pulled right at the beginning. We got presentations, and we have a fair number of people here, so I was hoping to do those first, and then move the consent later on into the agenda.
Chair,
You know-
but I think the officers
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's the pleasure, then.
I think that would be helpful for the Ventura Fire and the sheriff.
Excellent.
Cover those.
Okay,
Next.
that's a great
Is that all right?
suggestion. So why don't we move right before the tickler log, then we will move consent item pulled number 12 first.
Sure. And this is going to be quick for our representatives here. I received an email from one of our residents specific to current events with the fire, and I think we all can agree that we are trauma adjacent. So while we were not victim ourselves with our homes, we all have experienced that trauma. Either we know someone or we know someone who knows someone. And I personally know someone who lost their home in Palisades, and she literally got out with fire all around her, and she couldn't get out earlier because of the gridlock. So it took a while for her to get down out of the hill. The other two friends that I have, and these are long-time friends that I have, the other two are in Altadena. One's, the home survived, but on one block where one friend is, everything around her, all the homes burned down except hers. And they're not allowed back in their homes yet for obvious reasons. So again, we all have been impacted by this. So a resident emailed me, and he said and I'll just read it. He says, as a MAC advisor, has there been any assessment as to how vulnerable Oak Park is to a catastrophic fire event as experienced in Pacific Palisades? Since moving here in 1978, I have seen at least 4 wildfires surround Oak Park and concluded that only housing bordering the open space had any real wildfire threat. Recent events, as well as a number of insurance non-renewals, leave me wondering about my conclusion. Does the MAC have its own assessment? I referred this resident to the BC Fire Department website to learn more about what's available. He appreciated that, and he followed up with another email, and he says, as I look at the Firewise community, I find that there are only 5 tracks within Oak Park that are Firewise. None in the older parks of Oak Park. Likely each is associated with an HOA. He specifically gave his location on his street not being Firewise. He says, is there an advantage to being Firewise, such as reduced insurance because of the lower risk? Can our area, in his area, become Firewise? And he suspects that because of the huge conifer trees, that perhaps that might be an issue. So I'm just sharing that because obviously here's a lot of concern, and I'm grateful that we're going to be looking at trying to provide some information in next month's meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, did you want someone from the fire department to respond to that? Would you like someone?
If they can.
Is there someone?
Okay.
No?
Thank
Okay,
you.
well, thank you for that.
Hmm?
Hold item number 14.
Yes, thank you very much. When parts of Oak Park were undergoing the public safety power shutdown, there were traffic signals that obviously were out of commission. And I appreciate the Highway Patrol providing and reminding us that, when there's a 4-way stop without a signal working, that we should stop, treat it as if there's a stop sign there. But obviously, I personally witnessed, people running through those intersections without stopping. My question is, what can we do to, when we know that these events are likely, because we get the warnings in advance, what can we do to coordinate and mobilize getting stop signs put up at those intersections in advance of those happening, or at least soon after they happen, versus I think it was 3 days after the signals weren't working that stop signs were put up, and that was because it was then reported by a resident. Is there something that we could do to be more proactive or just be more responsive when we know these events are going to occur?
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Good evening. And thank you for the question. This is an issue that's close to my heart because...
Would you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry.
To the audience.
Greg Strackluse, Public Works Director for the Public Works Agency of Ventura County.
Thank you.
Can't tell if this is on. Okay, so with the traffic signals, quite frustrating to come upon a traffic signal that's dark. With technology, some set signals do have battery backup systems, but those backup systems are only intended to last between 4 and 8 hours, and after that, they go dark. So the next line of defense when they do go dark, of course, is to obey the traffic law to stop. At night, it's quite difficult to see a traffic signal, to come upon a traffic signal, particularly if it doesn't have the retroreflective backplates on them. Another frustrating part. Depending upon the city or the unincorporated county area, the unincorporated county area has a program we're working on right now to upgrade all 44 signals in our jurisdiction. And part of those upgrades will include the backplate reflectivity, but it also include the battery backup systems and also a plug-in opportunity for a generator. So once you get beyond the 8 hours, we'll be able to mobilize generators out there. As part of the most recent PS shutdowns, we were really concerned about the Caltrans signals at the interchanges where traffic was backing up onto the freeway system. And when you've got cars going 60, 70 miles an hour and you come upon a line of stalled cars because of the traffic signal we have to stop, it's very, very dangerous. So what we did is we proactively reached out to Caltrans and said, how can we help you? They said they do have generators. They placed them out at the sites, but they couldn't man them overnight. So I said, well, we can do that. We'll, on your behalf, we'll make sure they're fueled and they're operating. And we'll make sure they're chained to a pole to make sure nobody takes them. And so we were able to do that later on in the later part of the fire season. And we do intend to continue that relationship ongoing. But over the course of this next year, the 44 traffic signals that are in the unincorporated county area will be upgraded. So they'll have the latest and greatest technology, and they'll be much more resilient long term.
Thank you. It's great to hear.
Okay. All done?
Thank you.
Pulled item 15 on the landscape report. Yesterday, I received via Ashley Batista, Chief of Staff, Supervisor Gorell, just an update on from Public Works on landscaping in CSA 4. The report came from Enhanced Landscape, the contractor. Enhanced Landscape crews, first is that the contract with Enhanced Landscape will continue until mid-year. I believe that it is going to be till June 30th, so there is no interruption in landscape contracting services. There is an RFP, request for proposals, and this will be discussed on item number 18 by county staff. George Andrade is here, and he'll be able to talk to us about what's happening with that. And as the board, as Councilor knows, we provided input back in November, and so we'll see how our input was addressed in this request for proposal. Plants are still being trimmed, weeding, leaf debris is the big issue. Canaan Road medians are still being mowed. And some of the junipers along Canaan were overgrown and obscuring safety and vehicle clearance on Canaan, so they have been trimmed. I just noticed, though, tonight coming in that the one juniper that was planted a year ago that I've asked Enhanced Landscapes probably 3 times to straighten up still hasn't been done. But that is the gist of the landscape report, because we didn't have a field visit this month. But George will be able to speak more to the contract on number 18 later.
Can I make a comment
Yes,
on
please.
that? I know that we're still waiting on the RFPs and everything like that, but I guess I'm wondering at maybe a future meeting if we can talk about what options we have as a community. You know, CSA 4 is pretty limited as far as how much money we have in Oak Park, but these contracts keep getting more expensive. So I would just be curious to have information as to what recourse we have if we needed additional funds. I know we've talked about, you know, maybe a different drip irrigation system or things like that that will take an investment, and it doesn't seem like money that we have. So I'm looking for information about how, as a community, we're going to be able to pay for things like that in the future. Is it a parcel tax? What does it look like? So I don't know if there's a way to get more information on that.
Typically in February, the MAC begins deliberations on our budget. And that's next, I believe it'll be next month, at the latest March, but I'm really hoping for it's next month. That's a great question. We do have staff from finance, Public Works Finance. Ashley, if you could give them a heads up that we'll be asking for that, so they can be prepped, it would be great to be able to have.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, consent's finished. Now we will move to Michelle and the tickler law.
Terrific. Thank you. So for those of you who did not attend the October or November MAC meeting, we presented a log of sorts. It's a tool for the MAC to use to be able to track requests and issues presented either by the public or raised by the council. And the reason this was put together is it seemed like in prior months the same issues kept being raised and no one remembered what the status was or who owned it and whatnot. And so I went through 2-year prior meeting minutes to look for items that were raised and then started to populate this worksheet or the tool. In any event, the purpose of this is really not to track every single thing that comes through, but things that are really important to the community that require other resources, whether it's Public Works or Rancho Simi or County of LA if we're bordering on county line, that type of thing. So this is going to be updated on a monthly basis and presented as part of the packet for future meetings. To give you just it's pretty self-explanatory if you've looked at it. But you might notice that there's the first column is something called a reference number, and when an item is added to this log and it moves from active to closed, it will retain that reference number. So for reference purposes in the future, we want to make sure that if we're going to bring up an issue that was previously closed, it has the same reference number and has that continuity, if you will. So in this report, the current report for this month, we have 10 open items. One was an item that was closed last month or the prior month and was reopened in November. And we've got one closed. Closed items that are reported in the current meeting are reflected as shaded, and it will say closed. It will not come off the active report until it comes to this meeting and we agree, or unless no one has an objection, it'll then be moved from the active worksheet to the closed worksheet. And as you can see on the report, the item number 10 is shaded. It was closed, and actually I was happy to see that in very relatively short order that the concern and the problem with the juniper trees at the corner of Canaan and Tamarind, that was addressed by the homeowner. If you've driven by there, you'll see all those juniper trees that were an obstruction for traffic and causing a safety problem. Those were removed. So that's item number 10 is shaded and it's been closed. Next month, you'll see item number 10 move to the closed report. And so just, for a point of reference. The other open items are, I think, all require some action or follow-up from Public Works. And so they'll be speaking on that this evening and giving us some updates. And are there any questions that the council has regarding this month's report?
Jael?
No question.
Brianna?
No question.
Okay.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. I just find this is a really important document and a really important tool. It keeps us on track. Things happen. Budgets get adjusted. Staffing resources get reduced. We get it. We understand it. As my father used to always tell me when I was growing up, Rome wasn't built in a day. So I understand the importance of having to do some patience and get things done. However, there are times when it takes 6 months to 9 months and we aren't getting responses back. That's when the MAC has to start getting a lot more vigilant and start asking a lot more often for things and getting updates. So we want you to be aware of this. We want you to know that we are there for you and we are following up. And if it helps the staff at the county or at Rancho Simi at trying to talk to senior staff about providing time or resources to meet the need of our community, it's a tool that's good for them too. It also helps us in our preparation for the budget. If we're asking for things and we just don't have the money for it, we're going to have to learn to live within our means and set the priorities. But if there's things that are really important, then I think as a MAC, we try to be as aggressive as possible and look for more money and see where we go. It's our obligation to at least do that.
Chair, actually, I'm sorry, but I have a question actually. So, as far as item number 8 is concerned, the LPR, we said that we're going to get a report in January 2025. Maybe we can do that next month for the report, Ash. Is that okay?
Report on the LPR cameras?
Yeah. On a quarterly basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then number 11.
I guess just for clarification, the LPR cameras were installed, so
as regards that?
that we'll be disclosing to the MAC. The information that's tracked on the LPR cameras is monitored by the sheriff's office. If there is an incident in the community, the sheriff's office will certainly advise the community on that incident, but we're not going to be providing information from the cameras as a report out.
So,
maybe this needs
so what is
Okay,
this
when,
then?
well, JL, do you want, we'll let JL finish and then I'll get Michelle.
Yeah, so I guess we need to clarify what kind of report we're going to get as far as number 8 is concerned.
Well, and it was
Okay.
my ask. It was my ask.
Okay, you're finished with the comment?
Yeah.
Okay, Michelle?
Okay, thank you. So the metrics that were requested was just simply, based on crime activities that occurred in the community, if the LPRs were helpful in either solving a crime or helping provide evidence, I only was asking for some metrics on that, not any details, just, if there was 10 home invasions, did an LPR somewhere capture some information that was helpful to law enforcement, so that we will know how valuable the LPRs really are for our community, because that was a concern in the beginning when it came to the cost of them. Are they really needed? And, metrics elsewhere in other communities proves that they are very valuable. But I think it would be helpful, specific for Oak Park, if we had some type of report that said, we were able to tie a crime with what was gained off of the LPR.
We can include that in the sheriff's monthly report if indeed there is something. They do an excellent job of publicizing when there has been some assistance with those cameras. So
Okay.
we should include that.
And we were just asking for that on a quarterly basis. So not every month, because we know that that takes a lot of resources, but if it could be rolled up on a quarterly basis, that would be great.
Jane, you had a comment?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I have further comment, Chair. So number 11 and number 12, as far as estimated completion is concerned, that is supposed to be October, but it's still pending. Do you have any update on this, Ashley?
And which item?
Number 11 and 12.
Could you specify what the item is?
So number 11 says, lack of coordination, communication, and permits regarding the clearing of Medea Creek. And we're looking for an update for this.
Tonight there will be an update from Public Works on Medea Creek.
Okay. And then the Public Transportation Department routine maintenance agreement
That is also
Part of that.
spoke upon by Public Works tonight.
for tonight. Okay, good.
Okay,
No further comment.
very good. Okay, thank you very much. That will, that concludes. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda will be the Ventura, JL's point. Ventura County Public Works Watershed Protection Districts Draft 2025-2030.
All right.
California, ask and ye shall receive.
Yes, sir.
California Department of Fish and Wildlife Routine Maintenance Agreement for Medea and Lindero Creeks and their tributary streams. We have Greg Strakalas and Public Works Director Jeff Palmer. This has probably been, before the fires, this is probably the #1 issue in Oak Park in 2024 along Medea Creek. The issues came up with regard to what I've referred to as the balance of 4 interests. Medea Creek serves for the purposes of flood control, and it has to be provided for flood control. There is for fire protection, there is for environmental protection, and then there's for aesthetics and enhancement for the beauty of the community. The concerns that came to this chair last year were numerous over the work that Public Works does regularly by going into the channel of the creek and cutting down all the vegetation right into the water. And I've heard many comments about this is not correct. We need to find a way to look for a balance so that people are safe from flooding, people are safe from fire, and we still have wildlife protection. Find that balance, make it happen, rather than just cut it all down. So anyhow, the work that's being done in creeks, rivers, in California is subject to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. They are the overseers. And cities, counties, water districts, Rancho Simi have to get a permit. And this permit is got a lot of regulations by the state on how to do the work, when to do the work, and what not to do, and to follow it religiously. And to ensure that when contractors go out to do the work, they are trained to not cut down native species, not cut down, do the proper things. And we've had a number of complaints last year, and so these agreements are 5 years in length. And the Ventura County Watershed Protection District, their 5-year agreement sunsetted, ended on December 31st of 2024. So a new one is for 5 years. This council provided comments, and the public provided comments in November on what we felt would be appropriate to put into that agreement. And we gave it to Supervisor Gorel, to the to Watershed to incorporate. The key thing is, from the council's point of view, we understand the need for fire and flood, but is there a way not to destroy the environment at the same time? Can you not find that four-legged stool balance? So we're here tonight with a presentation from Public Works, and introduce yourself, and thank you for the courage of coming here tonight.
No problem at all. My name is Jeff Palmer. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works for the County Public Works Office. I oversee watershed protection. A little bit about me, so just so you understand my background. I'm a civil engineer. I've been in the county for 35 years, not working for the county. I've spent my whole professional career designing, building, and maintaining public infrastructure. That's roads and streets, water, sewer, storm drains, and the like. I actually worked on a project here in Oak Park back in the day when Pardee built Chambord and Regency Hills. I worked for the engineering company that did all the engineering, so I know the area well. I know all the four corners of Ventura County. I've spent my whole career and my whole life here. I wanted to sort of talk through our entire process of what we do and how we do it. I've never been before your council before, so I thought it'd be a good way to introduce and talk about some of the things we do behind the scenes. So the Watershed Protection District is, we've got 900 miles of red line channel. And I've got a slide to sort of show you what that is. Red line is really only because the line on the map is red. It's not a regulatory requirement that it be red, it just happens to be red on the map. Every reach of the red line channels are numbered. There's no rhyme or reason to how we numbered them. They're kind of like a creek address. Think of it that way. And then we're going to talk a little bit about maintenance of our facilities and some of the questions you've raised. So this is what a portion of the red line channel map looks like. There's channels all over. These are very rugged in some areas. The definition of a red line channel is any stream that at a 100-year storm has higher than 500 cubic feet per second flowing through it. So there's many more barrancas, creeks, streams that are under a variety of jurisdiction, but these red lines are the ones that are under our jurisdiction. And we don't maintain them all, we don't own them all, but our role is sort of oversight. We have a flood control responsibility, but we also have an ecosystem responsibility. So if someone wants to do something in one of these red line channels, and they want to fill it, they want to build something, they have to come to us and get a water course permit. And one of our sort of core values is, are they affecting the creek? Are they changing the alignment of the creek? Are they doing something in the creek that causes some sort of ecosystem problem? They may also be under the jurisdiction of Fish and Game or Fish and Wildlife or one of those other agencies. But if you're in one of these red line channels, we have an opportunity to provide some oversight. One of the things I like about my job is I've lived here my whole life, my whole professional career. I've raised my children here. They've hiked many of these creeks. They've hiked to the punch bowls in Santa Paula. They've swam in the swimming holes on Ventura River. They found ant lions in the sand of Ventura River. I loved it. I love this part of my job. I get to be part of protecting these rivers and these creeks. But this is the red line channel system that we have. Moving in closer to your neighborhood, you can see where the red line channels are. One of the interesting things is the sort of upper left red line channel goes under the homes. Well, that's like where the red line channel was before the homes were built. We need to go in and change our GIS map, but it shows you the expanse of some of these red line channels in your neighborhood. Moving in closer, you see it as it travels down through Medea Creek through the middle of the homes. And then finally down the lower section, we've actually got the numbers for the particular creek address here, 48071 and 48072. Those are not anything specific other than the number that just happened to be put on the individual creeks that are in your neighborhood. This is what it sort of looks like. You have the bottom channel, which is the wet marshy area, which is wet a lot of times. Most of the year, most years, it's always wet. There's enough natural drainage with a little bit supplemented from some of the homes that there's water in it most of the time. And you can see that there's quite a bit of wetland material growing, cattails primarily. But you can also see some rocks that are placed here and here. Up on the big screen, you can see these rocks. This is riprap that's been placed in terms of the original construction. And you see how the creek sort of has these slopes. Up top here is where the Rancho Simi Trail is, and some natural slopes and some terraces. So this is typical of the creek as it meanders through your neighborhood. I want to talk a little bit about our flood warning system and getting into the weeds a little bit about the mathematics of the creek. So the Ventura County flood warning system is world class. We have about 120 rain gauges. We have over 40 stream gauges, and then our system is integrated with Santa Barbara and LA counties and the National Weather Service. So when a storm comes and it starts to brew off the Pacific, the weather forecasters forecast the actual rainfall that we anticipate to see at each of those rain gauges. So we have the ability through our EOC to say, hey, a storm's coming, here's what we think it'll do, and what we think it'll do in various neighborhoods. From that, those rain gauges then sort of through a model predict what the water flow is going to be in the creeks. So from this prediction to the rain gauges to the stream gauges, we're able to work with our EOC and say, hey, maybe we ought to have some extra swift water rescue teams available because we're anticipating some higher than normal flows. So it's really a very good tool to sort of have an idea of what's coming out in front of us. We've had some significant rain events. Historically, you can go back in time to 1969, which was one of the formative rain events in Ventura County, caused significant damage. But more recently, in August of 23, during the middle of our summer, you may recall we had a hurricane that sort of spun up the coast off of San Diego, and a cell sort of spun its way to the backside of the mountains into the Palm Springs area, and it had tremendous torrential rains and caused a lot of flash flooding. Well, one of the little eddies, as we see on the news, the weather forecast, sort of spun up through Ventura County and along the 23 freeway. So here in the middle of August, some of our rain gauges were showing 4 and 6 inches per hour kind of rainfall events. That's a significant amount of rain. When we sort of talk about rainfall and sort of predicting, potential for damage, a half an inch an hour is a lot. If we get over a half an inch an hour, we're approaching 1 inch an hour, we're kind of starting to get worried about what can happen in some of these streams. So to have rain gauges that are showing tipping rates of 4 inches an hour really shows a significant event. In December of 23, in the middle of the night, midnight to 2 a.m. primarily, we had a band of thunderstorms that basically came ashore right in Port Hueneme and traveled all the way up Ventura Road to Port Hueneme and Oxnard and caused some significant flooding even up into Ventura. Both of those events were significant rain events. I don't want to give them a specific number. People hear the number of a 100-year storm. It's not really a 100-year storm. That's kind of a good label. A 100-year storm has a 1% chance of occurring in any 1 year. So it's kind of a 1% storm. Both of those events, August of 23 and December of 23, were in excess of that number. In the winter of 23, some areas of Ventura County got 90 inches of rain. In the winter of 24, 60 inches of rain. This year is significantly less so far. I guess that's good news given the fires and some of the potential for flooding and mudslides, but we also need the rain. I want to talk about sort of what we call HEC-RAS modeling. HEC-RAS is the Hydrologic Engineering Center, which is up at Davis, and they've developed a river analysis model to look at rivers and streams. So this is the results of an NRCS study that was done on Medea Creek in 2010. Now, that might be an old study, and you can say it's an old study, but it's a very good study, and I don't see significant changes in the watershed that would alter some of those numbers. In fact, between 2010 and 2025, where we are today, there's an increase in impervious area. So every square foot of asphalt, a roof, a driveway, adds to that runoff coefficient. And so what you see here is a 50-year storm in Medea Creek has 4,480 cubic feet a second. It's up here on the screen here, big screen here. So in a 50-year storm, Medea Creek is estimated to have 4,480 cubic feet a second. Now, a cubic foot is 7.48 gallons. So you multiply that out. Oh boy, what did I do? Okay. I didn't screw it up too bad. In a 100-year storm, the Q, the flow, is estimated at 5,380 cubic feet per second. You multiply that by 74, or 7.48. That means every second in a 100-year storm, you have 40,000 gallons a second going down the creek. Medea Creek is a flood control channel. It's a landscaped amenity. It's a wonderful, very beautiful piece of the community, but it's also a very, very functional and needed flood control channel. Many of our flood control channels are fully lined with rock. Some of them are concrete channels. This one is a lot more natural, which is beautiful and a wonderful amenity. But it's also something that can carry, a tremendous amount of water. If you look also in these charts, there's a whole lot of engineering mumbo-jumbo engineering numbers. You look at this minimum channel elevation and you look at the water surface elevation and you subtract those two numbers. That tells you the depth of water that's flowing down that creek during that 100-year storm. And if you look over here, that's the velocity in the channel, 9.28 feet per second. If you have water flowing down a street that's 6 inches deep and flowing 4 to 5 feet per second, it can knock you off your feet. So when you see these stories about cars that drove through the wash or people tried to think they could make it through the water, this is a creek, this is something that people should not be walking through, is a very hazardous set of conditions. And so if you subtract these numbers, you get anywhere from 8 to 12 feet water depth that's flowing at 6, 7, 8, 9 feet per second. In other parts of the channel, right here at the top of the blue is the highest velocity. That's flowing at 14.2 feet per second. This is a channel that really needs to be maintained as a flood control channel. Now what HEC-RAS does and how it does it is they take the long creek and they take little slices of the creek every 100 feet through survey techniques. And so you have this stack of sections. And if you know the cross-section of the channel, if you know the slope of the channel, if you know how much water is flowing through the channel, this model can tell you what the water is going to be doing. And so what we see from this analysis is we have water that's 8 to 10 feet deep, that's flowing anywhere up to 14 feet per second, and is very significant flows during storm events. The reason this is important is because when we start talking about how we balance maintenance, flood control, the trail, the amenity, how we do weed abatement, all of that has to come into play for us to come up with some decisions on how we do things. So this is a channel before we've done any maintenance on it. And I think there's a couple of things to point out. There's a reason this manhole is this high. Because in a storm flow, you don't want the storms and the water to start going in the top of the manhole and causing the sewer overflows. There's also quite a bit of riprap here. It looks like it's sort of extra and not needed, but it's needed because it's on the outside of a curve, and if the water gets deep enough in those high flows, as that water goes around the curve, it tends to eat out that soil on the outside of the curve. And so there's a reason for that rock. You also see here in the middle of the channel some very large trees growing. These are primarily willows, which are wonderful when they're small, but they become large trees. And if during high flows, the water rips them out by the roots, that whole tree tumbles down the river and can block culverts and bridges. And so one of the things that we try and balance when we do our maintenance is, can we go in here and precisely in a detailed way, and I agree with you all, we need balance, but can we take out that dangerous big tree and keep some of the smaller plants, the more appropriate wetland materials, so that we have this balance? Take out the things that can become dangerous and retain a lot of the other materials. Here's also a picture. It's hard to see, but you can tell the leafy structure of this plant and this plant are different. Now, cattails are not a problem. Cattails are wonderful wetland materials. The birds love them. They harbor a lot of wildlife in them. They only grow to 6 or 8 feet tall. When the storms come, they tend to lay down, and many of them die during the winter because of temperatures and so forth. And so they're not as much of a hazard long term as we need to worry about. The real worry is these small willows. There's one right here, and there's one right over here. Those will grow, and just in a matter of a year or two, with nice water and wonderful nutrients running off from people's lawns and fertilizers, they grow like crazy. Here again, we see, before any maintenance, and we see some different leafy structures here. I would agree with the get rid of palm trees as it relates to fire. I would also love to get rid of palm trees because the seeds float down through the water and there we go, little feedback there. The seeds flow down and become embedded in these wetland areas and start to grow. So we want to get out the ash trees, the large trees. We want to get out the willows. We want to get out the non-natives. We want to get out the palms. And we want to come up here in this upper sort of bench and get rid of some of this sort of, I'll call them weeds, but they're annual material that just grow and die and become part of the fire hazard that we need to worry about. Here again, you can see, the rocks on the outside of the curve in the event of high flows, and you can see this weedy, dry material that really needs to be removed from a weed abatement fire prevention perspective. Here's a picture, almost the same picture from the same spot that we saw earlier in the presentation. And the large willows have been removed in this area. Here's a picture of a maintenance area after we've done our maintenance, where we've removed some of the material that's growing in amongst the riprap here. Because if it grows in the riprap and the roots get too entrained into the material, when the water comes and pushes it over and those plants get ripped out of the ground, they damage the riprap. And so what we've taken out is some of the non-native materials, but we've tried to leave large swaths of area that are in the green, the wet zone, and make sure that those are allowed to be retained. Here's where, on that upper tier, you can see the rocks, again, on the outside of this curve. They look like they're out of place, but in a 100-year storm, the water's going to be up on that bench. The bench has been cleared of the weed abatement materials, but the wetland marshy area has been preserved. Again, another slide as we go forward. So I want to talk about the permit structure. So the maintenance, what we do, really is a function of looking at the engineering and the need to maintain that flood passage capacity. So we take our entire facility countywide one of those reach numbers, and we tell the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, we're going to go in here and we're going to do some maintenance. And that maintenance may be hand removal of willows, it may be weed abatement, it may be removal of invasive species, whatever we need to do maintenance-wise in each one of those numbered creek addresses. And then Fish and Wildlife come back and says, okay, if you find a fish, here's what you do. If you find a duck, here's what you do. If you find, any kind of species. The species list that we now have to look for is getting extraordinary. We are wonderfully supportive of protection of the ecosystem. That's why we all live in Ventura County. That's why we all live in open spaces. That's why I do what I do. Because I want to make sure that to the extent we can, we protect and maintain all those open spaces and those birds and all those species. With nesting season and breeding season, doing maintenance in March, April, May, June is very, very difficult. Occasionally we'll do it under emergency service conditions, but we basically don't because there are so many birds and species that are nesting, that are breeding, that it's really hard to do work and not, cause impacts to them. So most of our more removal type maintenance activities are done after September 15th because that's the end of the typical nesting season. But we got to get it done before November 1st and the rain starts. So most years you may see some sporadic maintenance during the early part of the year, but most of our heavy maintenance work will be done September to November because of those conditions. So we tell them what we need to do, and they tell us how to take into account and be protective of of all the species. So we have applied for a 5-year permit. We have not received it back. Again, we determine what the maintenance activities are, and then they provide us what the requirements are and what the protections we have to make. I can tell you the rules for fish, if there's any need for any impacts to fish, those have gotten very, very restricted. Over the past 3 or 4 years, the requirements for fish impacting kind of activities are very tremendous. We have a full biologist do our reviews. I can't do the reviews. I'm an engineer. I've been working a long time. I'm not qualified to do those reviews. For certain species, not only do you have to be a biologist, but you have to be certified for a certain kind of species. We have a levee project right now in the Santa Clara River, and there's a little bird. It's called a least Bell's vireo. It's about the size of a sparrow. It's a little songbird that lives right along the edge of rivers. And in the levee project in Oxnard, there's habitat that is indicative of least Bell's vireo. So we had to go out and do surveys before we started work, and we had to give the state the names of the people that were actually going to do the surveys. And so we gave them 4 names. The state came back and said, well, these 2 are qualified, these 2 are not. So not only do you have to be a biologist, you have to know least Bell's vireo, and you have to meet certain requirements for making sure that you're qualified to do the work for that species. So it's very restrictive, but it's restrictive in a good way. This is what results in us protecting the environment. Rather than just having a contractor do the work without oversight, we have to be trained, we have to have a biologist on site, we have to have the right biologist on site. We don't spray herbicides. We used to in this area. We don't anymore. We haven't in several years, and we won't because of all the concerns we have about aquatic life and other concerns that people have about herbicides. So that's sort of the overall presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have, both now and in the future. I'll be happy to come back if there's questions at a future time, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have or the audience might have.
Thank you. At this point in time, I'm going to ask if there's any member of the public who wishes to speak to this agenda item. Mr. Kozel, could you come up to the, I remind everyone, given our time with, yeah, that may be 25 minutes, if you can keep it to 3 minutes, please.
Your plan sounds good. The issues we had with Medea Creek last year was they weren't in any kind of permit plan, and the contractor came in there, had no biologist, nothing. They just basically clear-cut the creek and caused a lot of damage. That being said, one of the things we've noticed, I'm in an organization called Friends of Oak Park Open Space, is a lot of the work we're having trouble getting it done because we need a permit and there's a big complicated process you talked about. There's a lot of stuff, it seems to me, if we do it all the time, for instance, palm trees, as long as they're under 6 feet, let's take them out. You don't have to worry about the nesting season. Birds won't nest in the smaller palms. And I look at what's been done in some of these areas, nothing's done. We have invasive species, castor bean is still there, acacia is still there, eucalyptus is still there, yet the willows do seem to go, and they even clear-cut the cattails, which to me made no sense for the reasons you mentioned. But then this was not your organization other than a contractor that had been subcontracted. So is there any way we can start addressing some of that? And I also talk about the weeds along the upper reaches of the stream bed. Part of the problem we're running into is all these invasives go to seed fast, but we don't take them out till after they go to seed. The seed bank is huge now. And if you get any rain on top of that, you get what we saw in the last 2 years, huge problem. Can we start trying to put more emphasis on taking some of these invasives out earlier rather than waiting until they've already gone to seed? And I know there's a lot of controversy in the various organizations about that. But the fact is, we've done little experiments up in the Rancho Simi area along the northeast reach of Medea Creek on a tributary by the community garden. Literally have done that, and there's sections there. You don't have to weed it anymore. The oak trees are there. They stop the fires because they catch the embers, and their leaves go down onto the ground and they suppress the growth. You have to do this, but you got to get the invasives out. And if you don't make that effort, which I don't think we are for the most part, it's just going to continue to perpetuate itself.
Thank you, Stephen.
I have a quick question. Are you ahead or behind or right where you need to be on your maintenance plan? Where are you?
One of the issues with birds and nesting season is if a bird doesn't nest in a palm but nests in a tree very close to the palm, that we can't take out the palm because of the disturbance area that we need to take care of. So frequently when we go out and do nesting surveys, if we find a nest, we can't do any work depending on the species anywhere within 300 or 500 feet of that nest. And so, you know, if you find a bird nest here and a bird nest here and a bird nest here and you draw circles around them, you know, the work area can become very restricted. So that's one of the issues with the bird season, off season. I'm committing to you that we're not going to clear cut cattails. I had a conversation with my maintenance crew. We were in a meeting this afternoon. I spoke to them. It was probably 4:45. I said, we're not cutting down the cattails. They're not a problem. Now, if there's a willow right next to a cattail, we may have some incidental take. But I said no clear cutting of cattails. So we're not doing that. We will go do our invasive species work, but we're not clear cutting the cattails. Long term, they're not a problem. Long term, they're not a flood risk. We need to make sure that we have the flood passage and we get rid of the big stuff, but the little stuff we can live with.
Okay.
We also need to make sure we get out the fire stuff so we don't have fuel for some of these situations that are occurring, you know, throughout the Southland. One of the things that sickens me is I did FEMA recovery work in Malibu in 1994. I was helping the city rebuild their infrastructure. I saw the homes that burned in 1994 and I saw them rebuild. Some of those exact same homes that I saw burn in 1994 and storm drains and facilities that I rebuilt in 1994 just burned down again. So somehow I agree with you. We need to break the cycle of what we're building, what we're landscaping, what we're doing to try and take care of the fire situation. So fire is important for us, flood protection important for us, but the ecosystem and the amenity that goes through your community is important to us as well.
Thanks, Jeff.
Your question, sir, about are we ahead or behind? we've got some cleanup work to do in the lower part of Medea Creek. We're going to try and put that on the schedule. You will see it on our 2-week look ahead when we're out there doing it. We'll make sure we have the biologists come out and do the surveys, but we need to do some follow-up work in the lower part of Medea Creek.
Okay, thank you. Council, I'm going to ask if you have any questions. We'll start with JL.
Yeah. My question is, what is your policy, what's the policy of your office in coordinating this work with local groups such as Oak Park Open Space? Do you have some active engagement with them? Do you talk to them or what?
We haven't. One of the things we want to do is we want to be participatory in the discussion. We have a 2-week look ahead. We want to let you know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're doing really involves some heavy equipment, technical equipment. We want to make sure our team is trained. It's sort of a balance between how we get our work done and how we use the resources of others. I think we've tried to make sure that we have a competent crew with competent equipment to do the work. If there are other things that we can cooperate on, I'm more than happy to talk about what we can do.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Brianne, any questions?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Michelle?
Yes, yes, thank you. What is the schedule, or what do you think the schedule might be in terms of removing the very tall, dead palm trees along Medea Creek that have been there, I don't know, years, and now we're approaching, nesting season? Is there an opportunity to start removing any of those, or are we going to have to wait to, after September, because they're just dead and they look like matchsticks?
I will look into that in the next couple of days, and I'll get back to you with some information.
Okay. And this is, I'm sure Stephen knows exactly where I'm talking about, but it's I guess east of Medea Creek Lane and north of Oak Hills Drive, I believe, right? That section of Medea Creek.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll look into it in the next couple of days, and I'll get back to your council with what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Okay. Jane?
No questions. Thank you very much for
Okay.
the presentation.
I had a lot, but in the essence of time, I'm just going to summarize it really quick. Later on in the agenda, we have a work plan. The MAC has a work plan for 2025. And one of the items that we'll discuss and hopefully get approved tonight is working on a management plan for Medea Creek that looks at what you've talked about, but also working with the community interests, and so we would want to work with county staff as well. My point is this. I'll just get right down to it. Tall trees, willows, palms, definitely take them down. Vegetated buffer zones on both sides of the creek. The creek's only a couple feet wide. Go to the top of the little bank. You're looking at, say, 15, 20 feet of a low-rise, 3-4 foot green area there, non-invasive, but not willows. That provides temperature cooling of the waters. It provides erosion control. It still provides habitat. It provides the aesthetics. The key thing I look at is it possible to be able to establish a buffer zone of roughly, if you will, 15 is 30, so 40 feet altogether along that whole channel, like a green ribbon that goes down there that still addresses flood control. That's what we'll be looking at. I'll just want to say, Watershed Protection District does rely on a pretty conservative approach in their engineering, hydrology, and hydraulic modeling. It's called VC-RAT, okay? That's the models that you guys use, which is known as the Ventura County Rational Model, VC-RAT. And basically, a good starting point I would ask you to consider with the staff in Watershed is use the current VC-RAT model, the methods for hydrology that they've got. You guys have been using it for 15, 20 years now. And update that hydrology modeling. You've got a 2017 VC-RAT. It's called 2.64 Ventura County Modified Rational Model Program. I'm pretty darn sure you guys haven't updated that model in 20 years. And you've got new data with new topography. you've already got the 2017 manual. It already exists, but from what I understand, your existing models that you're using aren't using the new data. And the primary reason is priority of staff resources and budget. So I'll just leave it at that. You might want to go back and talk to staff and look at the feasibility of rerunning this model here, because yeah, I did the calculations. I agree with your CFSs. I agree with it, okay? But I'm not sure they're that high. So I'm just gonna so go back and I just encourage
I
you.
think, I don't, you know, one of the things about any kind of hydrology is it's as good as your data, and you can't measure the rainfall at every point in time all the time. And so yes, there's some engineering to it. One of the things we try and do is make sure that our channels protect and provide the flood protection that they provide, and we also have to plan for the extreme events. The folks in Port Hueneme saw some rainfall in December of '23 that exceeded those 1% year storms. And the water that was flowing down Channel Islands Boulevard and causing problems was significant. And my concern in Medea Creek is, how do we balance all those things? Provide an ecosystem that works, provide an ecosystem that's an amenity, but also don't do something that sort of takes away some of that flood capacity and doesn't plan for the future events. And it's a balance. It's about being precise, it's about being committed, and it's about, you know, trying to make sure we consider all the resources.
I think you and I are on the same page. We agree. I'm just saying, I'd encourage your staff to use the most recent data that they haven't used yet. Okay. So anyhow, thank you. Any other questions? No?
Thank you for the
Appreciate
invitation.
it. Thank
and
you.
if there's ever any questions in the future, I'll be happy to work with the supervisor's office and meet with you and talk through whatever issues you might have.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda then, we're looking at is our MAC budget and landscape contract. We're going to have George up here to present, and let's get an update on what's happening with the process of RFP as well. Just so everyone knows, on the landscape committee that I'm on, George is the staff person, so he's the county staff person on the committee.
Okay, good evening, everybody. As you know, expenses have shot through the roof. So right now, currently, we have an RFP that's going to go we're looking for a new RFP for June 30th or July 1st. Currently, you had monthly expenses for landscape were about $14,700. Okay, that jumped up to $30,000. And we were able to get it down to $22,000 while we do this 6-month extension of the contract. So the question is, how do you deal with all these expenses that just exceeded the budget? You have school crossings that we budget $210,000. They're $260,000. The water rates have gone through the roof. Everything is just so expensive. So the question on landscaping is, what's the expectation and what's the service that you want to provide? Do we rotate the trees being pruned on a 5-year schedule versus a 3-year schedule? Whatever, we all have to talk about this, but we're trying to deal with the excess cost, and we're going to have to take it from the end of the year budget. There's about $1.8 million in the budget fund. We'll have to take the excess from that, which is about $300,000. But still, everything is so expensive right now, and it's trying to maintain the quality of services with the expectations and providing the quality that you guys want. So this is all for discussion as we do these things. So that's just an update, and hopefully we'll have a good RFP, and we can come back to you guys. But it's going to be a challenge.
Does that RFP begin the process of going out for consultants on July 1, or is it going out like next month?
Yeah, no, we're working on it
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a process. So we're working on budgets right now, and the RFP is going to be going out soon, but the goal is to have it by July 1st.
Will we as a MAC see what is being proposed for the budget for landscaping
So if you
hit next month, or?
If you remember, we did all of those criteria for the budget. The first RFP that came out was so expensive,
Yes.
we just scrapped it because it was just through the roof. So now we're doing a new RFP proposal to get, and maybe modify those questions that you guys provided that you wanted in the RFP to the vendors.
When might we see that product?
When he posts it, I'll let you know, yeah.
Like, would you let Ashley know so that it can come back to us?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I'm just saying, we put a lot of time into thinking about this, what's happened with our feedback. Let me just go over to JL, comments.
Yeah, because we don't have any time, right? This is our last shot, so to speak. Make sure that we have something by July 1st. So my question is, do you reveal the budget to the public who's gonna bid on this, or how
Well,
does
it's
it?
a request for proposals for our GSA. There's a process that they go through. They send it out to all the landscapers. It's mandated by law, regulations, and everything.
I
So,
see.
and then it's graded by a panel. So there is a process.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have a contract. That's all.
Yeah, no, we've been trying to get that contract, but it's been a challenge. Very expensive.
Okay.
Anything else?
No,
No?
that's all.
Okay. Brianne?
I appreciate the work that you're doing. It's definitely concerning to us all that the costs have skyrocketed the way that they have. And I think the other point of concern for us is, are we going to be able to maintain a fairly similar level of service for this community? So we look forward to hearing from the updates.
Michelle?
No comment, thank you.
Jane?
No comment.
Okay. I'll just conclude by saying, one of the things I've been asking for a while, and I ask staff to consider it again, when there is a budget and it's been approved by the Board of Supervisors, once we take out the $260,000 out of the 1.8 for crossing guards, if that's what we do, I'm not saying we are, let's say we do that and approve that, whatever we've got for landscaping, as each month goes by, that is being spent on the landscaper's work, the updating of the irrigation, all that stuff. It would be great for us to see how much is left each month, or maybe every 2 months if that's a bit too much work for staff. The reason I'm saying is we want to see how much is in the pot, and how much it's dwindling, so that, say by October, we've only got, instead of that much, we've only got this much now. We have a lot of the public coming in, and they have a lot of requests for landscaping. And I think it's part of our job to be able to advise Supervisor Gorell on priorities. If all we got is this, and we've got 5 different community requests for A, B, C, D, E, we got to do the tough lifting of trying to determine what makes sense and then recommend it forward. I think that would be very helpful for us because we're not going to spend outside our means. We're going to live within our means. But we do need to know how much our means are throughout the year.
Well, every month you are sent a report that has that dollar amount and every invoice that comes in and the cost is sent to you guys in the MAC report.
Maybe we should.
I'm going to work with Ashley on that.
Yeah,
Okay?
so
Okay.
it's sent to you, so you know the running total
Yeah.
of everything, so it's.
Super.
It's there, yeah.
Okay, thank you, George.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Okay, next item on the, very much appreciated. Next item on the agenda then would be the Ventura County Sheriff's Office and Office of Emergency Services that will address community questions and concerns regarding evacuation plans and emergency preparedness in Oak Park. Ashley, would you be able to introduce Patrick? How you doing, Patrick? I used to work with that guy. Welcome.
Well, good evening. My name is Patrick Maynard. I'm the Director of Emergency Service for the Sheriff's Office. Brian, it's great to see you, and everyone that's here at 9 o'clock at night, thanks for sticking around. We appreciate it. So I was asked tonight to come and give a little bit of an overview of how we handle evacuations, maybe answer some questions about alerting, but I will tell you I'm an open book. So if you have questions about any of the recent incidents at the end of the presentation, I'll be happy to answer those. Also, later at the end of this presentation, Commander Corey Rubright and Captain James Sullivan are both here. They're here planning on talking about some traffic issues and whatnot. So just to give you a little preview of what we're in store for tonight. So when it comes to evacuations, and this may be review for a lot of you, we have 3 different flavors. We have an evacuation order, an evacuation warning, and then a shelter-in-place order. So you may recall terminology that used to go along the lines of mandatory evacuation and voluntary evacuation. We got rid of those terms. We worked to standardize those across the state. So now what used to be an mandatory evacuation is an evacuation order, and what used to be a voluntary evacuation is an evacuation warning. The big difference between the two is one indicates the threat is imminent, meaning it's happening now. You need to leave now. Under an evacuation warning, the threat is not yet imminent. And I'm going to put a little star by that because that doesn't always mean what it sounds like, especially to you residents that live in Oak Park. A lot of times that evacuation warning is really important and you should consider leaving. We'll talk more about that later. And then in some cases we issue what's called a shelter-in-place order. Those shelter-in-place orders are used often when there's things like a hazmat condition. Maybe it's unsafe for you to go outside because there's a gas in the air or some other condition. So we send out a notification and we ask you to shelter in place. So when we issue these orders or these warnings, the big question, how will I know? We have a number of ways of notifying you as residents of these situations. One of the big ones that we use, and we use it very sparingly, but it's very effective, it's what's called a wireless emergency alert. So by show of hands, who's familiar with an Amber Alert? Hopefully all of you. Okay, good. So wireless emergency alerts are alerts that are based on your proximity to a cell tower. You do not have to register for those alerts. So if we send out an alert to the Oak Park area and you are within proximity of some of the cell towers in that area, you will receive that alert. Regardless of where you're registered, where you live, if you're passing through the area and you're visiting from Ventura, you will receive that alert. So it's a great tool. The downside to it is it offers very little opportunity to do much explaining. It's limited to 90 characters. So there's not much we can really explain in that short message other than really what the hazard is. So in this case, you can see in the screenshot, fast-moving brush fire in Oak Park, Bell Canyon. Probably looks familiar for a lot of you just from a few weeks ago. More importantly, it's the reference to our website for emergency information, which is vcemergency.com. So we'll send that alert out a lot of times at the onset of a fast-moving incident, really just to get your attention. If you're asleep, if it's 2, 3 in the morning, we want to wake you up. We want to get your attention and let you know something's going on. It also might mean that we don't know exactly which areas we're planning on evacuating yet, and we're working on that. We're working on that with the fire department and our law enforcement folks out there, but we want to get your attention and we want to get you ready. So we use wireless emergency alerts to do just that. One of the challenges that you have here in Oak Park when it comes to that system is you're right on the LA County-Ventura County line. To make things a little more complicated, it's not just the County of Los Angeles that may issue a similar alert. The City of Los Angeles will also issue those alerts. So I'm curious, by show of hands in this room, who here on the night of January 9th during the Kenneth fire received a message from the City of Los Angeles? Okay. Who here received a message from the County of Los Angeles? All right, and hopefully everyone's hands go up. Who received a message from the County of Ventura? Can be confusing, right? So one of the challenges we have in this area is something that we call in the industry the mutual threat zone, is these messages, especially these wireless emergency alerts, they're not necessarily geographically specific. So you will get them from LA County, from LA City, and Ventura County. What I can tell you is our messages will always say VC Alert at the beginning, and then we'll have a reference to VC Emergency. As Ventura County residents, your place to go for that emergency information is always going to be VC Emergency. I apologize. I know it's very confusing. We are working. Oddly enough, we actually met with LA City and LA County a couple of months prior to this incident, just working on a scenario, oddly enough, very similar to what we experienced during the Kenneth fire. My long-term goal is to establish one agency as the primary agency for alerting. So perhaps this incident impacts Los Angeles County and Los Angeles City, but Ventura County is a single point issuing alerts just for that area. Again, to avoid the confusion. If you go to VC Emergency, one of the first things you'll see up at the top of our website, I call it the fork in the road. There are buttons that lead you to Los Angeles City's website, to Los Angeles County's website, and then our information. And I've conversely asked them to do the same, again, knowing that these areas that are so closely situated together, that people can get to the right place. So the night of the Kenneth fire on January 9th, this is the shape that my team actually drew. And within that shape, it basically identifies all the cell towers within proximity. And from that goes out the wireless emergency alert. Again, what's tricky is there's bleed over. So that message went well into LA, and it went well into Thousand Oaks, and probably even to Camarillo. Those messages often go a long way. So that's a little bit about wireless emergency alerts. By show of hands, VC Alert. Who's heard of that? Great. Okay, so VC Alert's our primary system that we use for alerting, and we use that one as our primary system because of its ability to be specific. So the system is comprised of data that we buy. I know that's a shock, right? We buy your data from third-party data aggregators, and then we also rely upon you as residents to opt into that system as well. So I'll be honest, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of really good data. The data that we buy today is so much better than what it was when we first started this system back in 2011, but we still ask that you register for VC Alert by going to vcalert.org. Along with your phone number, we have your address. So what we do is we go into this mapping system and we draw an actual shape on the map, and we send out geo-targeted messages. When we do an evacuation, we will always send out a VC Alert that's geo-targeted. So you'll receive a message specific to your address with information. And that is also where we will send out a notification that says you are under an evacuation warning, or an order, or an advisory, or whatever the case may be. That system can text message you. It will send a voice phone call, email, fax if you still do that. It'll actually even page you if you still have a pager. Haven't seen one of those in a while. So it can get a hold of you in a lot of ways. Again, it's our most effective tool. We can also send out hundreds of thousands of calls simultaneously, so it's also our quickest tool to getting information out to you. VCEmergency.com, there's a website I referenced. That website's available in English and Spanish. By the way, all of our messaging that we send out through wireless emergency alerts and also VC Alert is also bilingual. It's in English and Spanish. VC Emergency is really meant to be the one-stop shop for information in Ventura County. So don't go to the fire department website. You don't have to go to the sheriff's office website. We work collaboratively behind the scenes to make this the single point of information. Again, these are all things that we've perfected over time, lessons learned through past incidents. We don't want residents having to hunt and peck around for information. You can go to this website and find out anything you need to know. On that website, down at the bottom of the page is this real-time dashboard. So Oak Park, like many communities, has been victim to public safety power shutoffs, especially over the last couple months. We post information on this dashboard that shows you in real time what Southern California Edison circuits are being impacted. As it relates to evacuations, we will post all evacuation orders, warnings, and shelter-in-place orders on this dashboard as well. What I will tell you is that my team is held to a very high standard of being able to update this website, this dashboard, and get that evacuation notice out as quickly as possible. We strive to do all those things in under 15 minutes. So from the moment that we are notified, hey, we want to evacuate these particular areas, the team is trained, they split up the work, they're trained to get this information up onto the website. So when you get that alert and you have questions or you need clarification, you can go directly back to VC Emergency, see this dashboard, and get that information. And then more importantly, as the situation continues to unfold, you can keep going back to VC Emergency for that information. So again, if I haven't made my point clear, VC Emergency is really where it's at. So aside from the technology, and there are a few systems I didn't name, there's other ways that we work to notify residents. And these ways are still tried and true methods, but they require resources. Knocking on doors in person with deputies is something we still strive to do. However, we are seeing more and more fast-moving incidents. Not every incident is the Kenneth fire where we had time to get into the neighborhood and notify everyone. We all remember what happened during the Woolsey fire, and that's what we want to avoid. Again, a lot of lessons learned from the Thomas Fire, from the Woolsey Fire, from the Mountain Fire. We learn every incident. So we're going to do our best to get resources out there and knock on your door and let you know that you should evacuate and just confirm that you received that message. But I don't want you to count on that. That's why it's important that you do your part in signing up for these notification systems and paying attention to what's impacting the area. So our deputies will knock on your door. They'll make announcements on their public address systems in the cars. They will utilize the high-low siren system to get your attention and let you know, hey, it's time to evacuate. Those are all tools that we still leverage. So some factors that may impact timing of these messages. Again, the minute a fire strikes, as much as I like to say we can send out an evacuation, it takes time to coordinate those things. We want to make sure that we're not evacuating areas that don't need to be evacuated. We want to make sure our messaging is correct. We want to make sure that we're including, all the areas that we need to. So those things take a few minutes. I mentioned earlier, we're pretty good at doing that. We have a great relationship. I mean, we work daily with the fire department on these types of things, but they often take time. Sometimes we don't have good situational awareness about where the fire is or where it's moving. So we have to kind of work those things out, and if we have poor situational awareness of what's going on, and I'll use the Woolsey Fire as an example, when it bared down on Oak Park, that may delay evacuations. So that's something that we consider. The location, areas being impacted, that can be a challenge at times. Coordination between police, fire, a lot of times the onset of an incident, the fire battalion chief or division chief, they're driving around just like our law enforcement people are driving around, and it's hard to get people all in one place to talk about these things. So we coordinate them over the radio, we talk on the phone, but sometimes those things do take a few minutes to get established. So as much as I would like to tell you a fire is going to start at 7 o'clock and by 7:15 I'm going to have that evacuation notice out, I'm going to be lying to you if I told you that. It takes a little bit of time to get those things going, but we are working as quickly as we can. That being said, it's up to you to take charge of your safety. If I stood up here and said that we were able to get the message out to everybody as quickly as possible, and for those that can't get out of their house on their own, we were going to be at your door, I'd be lying to you. There's a lot more of you out there than us. So we'll do what we can to help. We're going to make it our best effort to do as much as we can, but we need your help. We need your help. So stay alert as these conditions change quickly. You've seen it. You've seen it out here, and I kind of want to answer. I believe it was you read an email from a constituent, and I was texting with one of the division chiefs from the fire department about this, and I said, hey, here's my answer to this question. Are you good with that? He said, absolutely. So the question was, could we potentially see a situation like we saw in Palisades or in Altadena with the Eaton Fire in Oak Park? I'd like to say no. I'd really like to say no. But what we're seeing is more and more extreme weather conditions with no real ability to stop these fires. It's scary. What we've seen this last year is just mind-boggling. So I think the work, I'm happy to hear the fire safe hardening work that's being done is key. That's key. Making our water systems resilient and capable is key. So keep those efforts up. I can tell you we have a great fire department here, but if we had fires burning in multiple places throughout the county, that's going to spread our resources thin. So if Oak Park's the only show in town like it was during the Kenneth Fire, you're going to get the world. But just like LA County experienced with the Eaton Fire, they had fires going at both ends of the county that spread those resources out. And in those cases, when you start to see fires pop up in a community, that's when you have this conflagration occur and you lose a lot of homes. Again, the key to getting through that is home hardening and doing your part. So again, I don't want to lie to you and say this won't happen here. And gosh, you know what? I sure as hell hope it doesn't happen here. But it's within the realm of possibilities just based on the weather conditions we're seeing. And that's anywhere. So please do your part to prepare. Stay informed, VC emergency, and then lastly, take action. Don't wait for us to tell you to leave. If you're looking outside and you're seeing fire coming down the hill, don't wait for us to come knock on your door or us to send you a VC alert. If you're feeling unsafe, or perhaps it takes you a little bit longer to get out the door, leave. Leave when you hear the evacuation warning. Don't wait for that order. Leave during the warning. The Kenneth Fire, I think, is a good example of what we're really striving for. That fire was a ways away, albeit the smoke was close and it felt really close. We put Oak Park under a warning as quickly as possible. recognizing what occurred during the Woolsey fire and the timing of that. That was less than ideal. Less than ideal for you, less than ideal for us. We don't want to relive that if we can avoid that. So we want to let you know as quickly as possible that you're under a warning, but things move quickly. And if the fire spots, it may go to an order a lot quicker than we expect. So I say under those warning circumstances, don't be scared to leave, especially if you have anyone with any type of access or functional need. You know, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody with, I spoke to a resident recently, has a family member that is on a ventilator and is bedridden. Those are very challenging situations. That warning is your time to leave. Please do not wait. Again, time is of the essence here. Who here has the Watch Duty app? That's my fear. No, so I have the Watch Duty app too. We all have it. The Watch Duty app is a great tool. It's a great tool. But I want to be careful with it because the people that are updating that tool aren't official sources of information. And many of them are providing updates. They're not even in this state. I've seen them not even be in this country. They're monitoring radio traffic, and you know what? 90% of the time, they do a fantastic job. What they're doing with Watch Duty is amazing, and it's super helpful. A lot of the time, and most of the time, they link to our website. So when we update our website, they have something called change detection. They're watching for changes to our website, and they immediately update their app when they see stuff being updated. So they're great about that. But that being said, they also are adding little comments, and they're adding comments based on radio traffic they hear. And that's their interpretation. And I highlight this because we had an issue in 2018 during the Woolsey fire where somebody that was posting on Twitter at the time, VC Scanner, I don't even know if he's still around, VC Scanner was posting play-by-plays, very similar to what Watch Duty did. And that individual interpreted information about a staging location for fire apparatus at Oak Park High School as a shelter location. And that was inaccurate. And then what happened? No pun intended, it spread like wildfire. Everyone started showing up here and there was no evacuation shelter here. And that's my fear with things like Watch Duty. So if you take anything away, your official source for evacuation information is vcemergency.com. Watch Duty is a great tool, cool mapping. I like what they're doing. They're on the right track. But your official source for information at Ventura County is VC Emergency. Again, I like what they're doing, though. It's pretty cool. So if you or somebody in your family has any type of access or functional need, that's a fancy way of saying some type of disability, it's important that you take action early. Don't wait. Again, we need you to evacuate. I also want to emphasize the importance of making plans to be able to seek the help of your family, your friends, your neighbors for assistance. As much as I would like to tell you a deputy is going to come or a firefighter is going to come to your door and be able to evacuate you, that may not always be the case. And I will tell you one of the things that probably scares me most is some of what we saw in Los Angeles County. It breaks my heart to think that people weren't able to evacuate. But the reality is these fires are large. They move fast, and these things happen. These things happen. We cannot be everywhere at once. So again, I put this back on the residents. As your first point, if you are in that situation or you have family in that situation, it's up to you to reach out to your family, to your friends, go knock on that neighbor's door and say, hey, you know what? If we're in a fire situation and I need help out, do you think I could jump in the car? I don't drive. I don't have a car. Do that as your first step, and I challenge you. I know, many of us have neighbors we wave as we walk out the house, but we may not be friendly on that level. Get friendly on that level. We need you to have those conversations. That's key to your success. If you find yourself in your home and you're trapped with no way to get out, you have no car, you need to evacuate, maybe you require a cane or a wheelchair or whatever the case may be, and you have no other option, you can call 911. But I want to be clear, that is an option of last resort. We do not have the resources to send to every home, especially in these fast-moving, widespread incidents. Our team does an amazing job. Fire department does an amazing job. Again, my fear is we miss somebody. And our deputies are going to make every effort to go to every house, but we're seeing the speed of these incidents just grow faster and faster. They're outpacing us. So do your part, make arrangements if you can, and just be cognizant that we're going to do our best, but it's tough. Obviously, limited ingress, egress area in Oak Park. I don't want to steal Commander Rubright's thunder or Captain Sullivan's thunder about talking about traffic. Again, the key to getting through this, I don't have a wand to wave and make a new roadway. It is what it is, at least right now. So that means we need you to do your part. Once again, your part is evacuate early. Don't wait till it goes to an order and all hell's breaking loose and say, well, let's load up the car, let's go. Your time is when you see smoke and when you're under a warning or when things aren't looking great, get in the car and leave. Don't wait. Start heading that direction. That is going to be key to our success. I wish I had a way to create another road or teleport everyone out of here. It doesn't work that way. I don't have a magic wand, and by God, by now it would be busted anyway. So we need you to do your part when it comes to getting out early. With that, I just want to share with you, my team constantly is working on improving. I think several of you in here can attest to that. So we're always looking at the new best technology, how we can do things faster, more informed, more efficiently. So there's been some changes in the last couple of years, and for us, this tool has been a game changer. Has anyone heard of Firus? One of you. Okay, so Firus is like the next best thing since sliced bread for us. So Cal OES, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, has funded a couple of these fixed-wing aircraft. And this aircraft, the closest one, is out of Chino. So if we had a fire, I'll use the Kenneth Fire as an example, kick off, and it looks like it's going to be a large fire, a fire fusion center based in LA will launch that aircraft. And that aircraft has about a 15 to 20-minute ETA to Ventura County. That aircraft flies at about 15,000 feet in an orbit, and they use infrared imagery to capture the fire's perimeter. And I cannot tell you how effective that is to informing us about where the fire's burned and which direction it's heading. We take that information in real time. So as that aircraft is flying, we're getting that information. We're actually chatting with the crew in a Slack message live at the back of our vehicles saying, hey, can you get this? Can you look here? Can you look there? We're able to use that tool in real time to see where the fire's burned and which direction it's moving. And from that, we start to build our evacuations. So rather than standing out here in the dark and saying, well, gosh, I see the glow over the hill. I think the fire's coming towards Oak Park. If we have the luxury of having this aircraft up and over the fire like we did during the Kenneth Fire, we can see in real time where the fire is. So that's a tool that we use. This is a screenshot from another tool, same system, from the Hughes Fire, just, was it a week or two ago now, out in Castaic. Before that aircraft even goes up, they look at where that fire is started, so the point of origin, or approximately where that point of origin is. And this modeling system takes into consideration real-time weather conditions. So are we dealing with a northeast wind, fuel conditions, and topography, and it gives us a model of what that fire spread could potentially look like. And that model, I don't have it on this map, but it has some time frames associated with it. So it says based on current conditions, weather, topography, fuels, that fire is likely going to burn in this direction over this period of time. And it gives us the first couple hours. That allows us to start thinking about evacuations. We're now making informed decisions. It's not just based on, well, I know the fire burned this way last incident. We now have some real-time modeling with real-time data to kind of tell us that. And if I share this with you, this is what that fire actually burned. So this is the modeling for the first few minutes, and that's ultimately what that fire burned. Now, I don't know how bad the smoke was out here, but if you were in the Santa Clara Valley at all, Piru, Fillmore, Ventura, that fire felt like Ventura County was on fire because that smoke just laid down through the valley. But guess what? That aircraft was up and over that fire, and while we were putting evacuation warnings in place all the way into the city of Piru, so 12 plus miles as the crow flies from where that fire was, we're seeing it in real time, and we could see that that fire hadn't crossed the 5. Talk about peace of mind. And that was all thanks to that real-time aircraft. So while we're gauging evacuations and utilizing these tools, we also have that peace of mind that, no, you know what, we don't quite need to go to an order yet. It hasn't crossed the 5. Things are looking pretty good. It's holding on the other side of the lake. That is intel we have never had before. I like to tell you that our aircraft, they're out putting out the fire, are able to give us play-by-plays of where things are burning. They can't. They're picking up water, they're dropping it, and they're going back and forth. The last thing they want to do is pause and say, hey, just so you know, the fire's at this location. So this aircraft, or these aircraft that are all over the state, have really been a game changer for us, and they allow us to make more informed decisions. I wish I had these things in 2018 and 2017 during the Thomas Fire and Woolsey Fire. The only downside to these things is if conditions are really bad, they can't get up in the air. They can fly in really windy conditions. They stay way up above where our tankers drop and where our helicopters operate. But if it's really, really bad, 70, 80, 90 miles per hour at the ground level, the winds aloft or way up there can be really dangerous. So we've had them grounded in the past, but I will tell you they've done an amazing job for us, and it's such a game changer. So one of the last things, again, this is just an example of how evacuations work. You can see where the modeling is up above. From that, we draw the evacuation polygons and we cascade them. And what my team is trained to do is look at that modeling even before the fire guys are on scene. We look at our camera feeds, we look at all these different sources, and we start drawing evacuations before our team is even there. So my goal is when my team ultimately rolls in at the command post and they're standing next to the fire person and the captain or commander from the sheriff's office in that area, they open up their laptop and they say, hey, here's what we're thinking. What do you guys think? Based on this modeling, based on history, here's what we want to do. And then from that, we build on that. So technology has changed a lot. Last thing I'll say about that is you may have seen, especially if you're on watch duty, LA County uses these pre-drawn shapes. They use something called Genesis, and they have pre-drawn evacuation shapes for all of LA County. We have a similar tool. But because we are, pat myself on the back, because we're sophisticated, we've done this a long time, we've got a lot of experience, we feel it's best to draw those shapes on the fly. We don't want to evacuate you if you don't need to be evacuated. And if I take these pre-configured shapes and a one-size-fits-all approach, we are going to over-evacuate or not have the shape that we need. So we have those in our toolbox, but we prefer to do these things on the fly, and we can do it quickly. A matter of seconds, we can draw these shapes and get these things out and the alerts done. So if you wonder why we don't have those, why we don't publish those, that's why. We have a different plan, a different process. That's a well-oiled machine, and we think it's pretty effective. So the last thing I'll say, again, if you leave here with any one thing tonight, I need you guys to do your part. We're trying. Our public safety team is out there, blood, sweat, and tears, doing their best to keep the fires out, get you evacuated, but we need you to do your part. So stay informed, make a plan, build a kit, and then get involved. Again, go out to your neighbors, introduce yourself, tackle that little awkwardness, and do what you can to help us out. Happy to answer questions, but I'm going to let Commander Rubright come up and talk a little bit about traffic, and then we'll answer any questions.
Patrick, just 1 second. I was just going to I'm looking at time. I'm going to make a motion for a second here. How many folks in the audience will have questions that they want to ask tonight? Show of hands? Okay. All right. I'm thinking with the presentations in this, I'm going to make see what the council's pleasure is here. Would you be willing to go to probably, I'll start on the here. Would you be willing to have a hard stop at 10 o'clock tonight?
Yes.
Everyone? So a motion then that the Oak Park MAC meeting of January 30th will conclude at 10 p.m. All in favor? Or any seconder?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye? Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Corey Rubright. I'm the Patrol Operations Commander at the Sheriff's East County Station. I never like following somebody like Patrick, who's a much better speaker than I am, but just wanted to talk to you a little bit and more or less start by echoing what Patrick said as far as being prepared to leave well in advance of the Sheriff's Office or our OES making any notifications. I've been on the department for 35 years now. I've seen my fair share of fires, and by far what we've seen in the Palisades and what I experienced responding to the mountain fire, I have never in my 35 years seen fire move that fast and gain that much ground. When I was notified of that fire, I rolled out of the station to go to our incident command post, and the fire practically beat me from Thousand Oaks to Camarillo. It was just unreal. To talk a little bit about concerns that I know a lot of the community has with regards to the traffic situation with the Kenneth fire. As we were coming from our East County station and turning up Canaan to go to where we were going to stage for our command post, Obviously, we saw the traffic that was backing up on Lindero Canyon Road. You have situations with the high wind events and the power safety shutoffs that affect the traffic control signals, so traffic starts backing up at the major arteries. One of the things that, unfortunately, when we have these events and these fires, we learn things. And so with the mountain fire, we had a lot of gridlock in Camarillo with everybody trying to come out of the Heights area. The signals were out, and Las Posas Road and the arteries up into the Heights were gridlocked. And we started to notice that we're going to have similar situations in Oak Park should the fire progress and we had to do mandatory evacuations. So one of the things that we're looking at as an agency is establishing, similar to our tactical response team, having a tactical traffic plan where our two largest traffic bureaus happen to be in the city of Thousand Oaks and also in the city of Camarillo. So in a relatively short period of time, we can have traffic trained officers respond to an incident that involves evacuations. And in fact, at the Kenneth fire, we had staged our command post, multiple members of our Thousand Oaks Traffic Bureau in the event we went mandatory with the evacuations, and they were going to hit the main arteries along Lindero Canyon to keep the traffic moving and flowing freely to get people out of the area successfully. So that's something that's still in progress, we're working on, but at least at the moment, that's a plan that we have in place, and anytime we have a fire pop up, our traffic units will be responding to the command post to be available to assist with evacuations. I'm sure a lot of you have seen or have heard about our tactical response team. Those are individuals on our agency that are trained to respond to a variety of different emergencies, be it crowd control type situations, but most specifically, at least at this time of year with the fires that we've had, they've got training in evacuations, they've got training as far as how to be in the midst of a fire and protect themselves. We currently have a 43-member tactical response team that is utilized in these emergencies to go door to door, as Patrick was saying, and assist with evacuations and notices to the public. We're going to be expanding that team to 55 members, adding 12 to the team. That'll be happening over a period of the next few months. It takes some time to accomplish that with interviews and getting qualified personnel, getting them trained and equipment. But that's the status of where we are as an agency. And again, just to reiterate what Patrick said, when you feel uncomfortable, you see smoke, you see flames, you don't have to wait for us. It makes traffic flow a lot smoother. It makes the situation a lot easier if people take it upon themselves to get out of the area. The other concern that we have is when you do have rapidly moving fires like this, there may be times where the fire department is overwhelmed or the fire overtakes an area and we just won't be able to get back into an area. So please have those thoughts in your minds as well. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. That's all I got.
Does any member of the community have any questions? Okay, I'll open it up to the council. JL?
Yeah, so the evacuation plan. So when I was with the Park Fire Safe Council, one of the questions one of the things that we're toying about is an evacuation plan, wherein if you're in a certain, like south of the street, you will exit in Canaan, in 101. If you're not, you're gonna go to the other side. Is there something that we can do along those lines, or we're gonna trust the polygon mappers?
So I think I'll let Patrick correct me if he's got some better planning or information. But when you have a large community and you have numerous people, I think it's difficult to formulate a specific plan that if we have a fire breakout, you're gonna come out to a specific street, make a left turn or a right turn, or this is going to be the direction you go to the freeway, because there can be so many different dynamics related to that. And that's one of the reasons why our intention is to increase our tactical response team, so we have more people in the community that can provide evacuation notices and direction to the public, as well as get our traffic people out there to help route people out of the areas and keep the major arteries moving and flowing. A lot of the information as far as what road areas are closed or what the best avenue of ingress or egress are, Those are going to be posted on vcemergency.com in practically real time during an emergency. I don't know if you have more to
I just want to clarify. So VZ Emergency is just a website, right? It's not an app.
It is mobile responsive, so it'll work on your phone. It works fine.
Yeah, and then VC Alert is that's where you register your phone number and to get information. But any notice to evacuate will be in VC Emergency.
It'll be on VC Emergency, and it'll also go out via VC Alert.
Through the text messaging that you register with your phone.
And a voice phone call.
No.
Because
And thank you very much. I thank you also for mentioning the over evacuation, because I think that's one of the things as I read through it, one of the things that caused the clogging and people not being able to escape is because they just like flood the streets and yeah. Thank you for making sure that we manage the evacuation flow as well. Appreciate it. No,
Brianna.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing, and it's really great to have the update. One of my biggest concerns is that not only are we in the unique situation of having only two ways out, really, but we're also in a situation where our school district services over 30 different zip codes. So in the evacuation of a daytime fire, we're going to have all the Oak Park residents trying to get out, and we're going to have all those out-of-district families trying to get in to reunite with their children. And that, to me, seems like a recipe for chaos. So I'm hoping that, I know you just said that you wouldn't really be able to do a formal evacuation plan, but I don't know if there can be coordination with Oak Park Unified to try and mitigate that situation, to try and educate out-of-district parents and in-district parents. I don't know, Brad, what the liability would be of releasing, like if I sign something at registration that says that my high school student can walk to me because that's going to be faster for them to walk to me and it's going to help cut down on traffic. I don't know what kinds of things are available, tools are available to us as far as that, because a lot of the students here could maybe get back to their house faster than clogging more parents trying to just get to the 5 school locations. I don't know if you could utilize your VC Alert system to say, people that are living on Conifer, they should take Canaan, and people that are living here should take Lindera. I don't know if you can use it in real time, those alerts, to say, please, these addresses evacuate Lindero, these addresses evacuate Canaan. I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can do to plan in advance and also communicate to not only our residents, but to these parents of these extended zip codes that are going to be in this situation in an emergency. So just food for thought.
That's a doozy of a question.
Yeah.
I got up at 3:30 this morning.
Don't
no.
worry, you have till 10.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's sit down then. No, that's an excellent question, and it's a challenge. So, while we can get down to the street level when it comes to sending out notices, it's been our experience that in that rush, scary moment, it almost creates more confusion. What did they say? Turn right here or turn left here? And then it doesn't take into account the variables that we have to factor in. We have a traffic collision at that intersection, and now that whole plan is foiled. So given the limited number of egress points, I think just getting people out early is our key. I do like the idea of coordinating with the school district and, more importantly, messaging to parents at the beginning of the year what the plan is. I think we need to talk about what that plan is and maybe how we can improve it. I think the stat that you gave about the number of zip codes and attendance, that's a lot, but it's something worth talking about and see what we can do to message appropriately ahead of the school year. Messaging that during the incident is going to be tough. So I don't know that that's the time to do it, but definitely as a year-round preparedness opportunity for sure.
I definitely would appreciate any kind of coordination that could happen in advance between those two entities, and then any way that you could publicize that through, Parent Square to parents, maybe through the ACORN to community members, but it would be great, as you said, to have the information in advance of the events.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate the suggestion, and we'll pull together our fire partners and we'll set up a meeting.
Thank you so
Cool.
much.
We can do that.
Okay. Michelle.
I don't really have any questions, but a couple of comments. First of all, thank you so very much. It was very informative. I have, since the Woolsey fire, I've been hammering on getting this type of information to the community, and I know it's a process, and you learn from every event. So I really appreciate you coming out and sharing, particularly about the evacuation and having a plan. And so thank you, and I want to applaud all the resources they got on that Kenneth fire, because that was just amazing response. And that meant that you were prepared and you had resources deployed, and it was just amazing. I have to say, though, I learned about the Kenneth fire from the Watch Duty app first, and so I began my preparation to leave, and I chose to leave at the warning because I've got 3 large dogs. It's like herding cats. The last time they were in the SUV was during the Woolsey fire. So when I tried to get them in for that, it was chaos. But we get out in 15 minutes. And I have to say, I thought about where that fire was, which was to the east of our community, and where the winds were coming from. So I thought, I'm not going down Canaan like I did in the Woolsey fire. I took all the way to Canaan to Westlake. And it was like maybe 2 minutes longer, because I left early. I chose to leave early. And it was, by the way, it was stressful, obviously, but it was a great exercise. I'm glad we did it. It was an amazing, you learn what you can do and what you have to do to get out. And it was a drill. It's like having a fire drill. It was great. So anyway, so thank you for being here, for addressing some of those concerns, some of the questions that get asked often, and the community talks about where to go, and it was just very informative. So I think this kind of information to share with the community on a regular basis would be really helpful.
Jane?
Yeah, thank you again. We really appreciate your time. On social media, there's been a lot of discussion about our communities that are adjacent to us, like Agoura Hills, that are building more high-density facilities for new residents. Have you guys had any discussion about how we'll handle those additional people coming into our neighborhood communities?
That's a great question. We get that. We get pinged on that a lot. Oddly enough, our unit, the Office of Emergency Services, isn't directly involved in the plan check process or the EIR process or any of those things. So shy of somebody reaching out and asking an opinion, we certainly aren't really consulted. That being said, there are often traffic studies done and evaluations that are done by engineers that have the ability to calculate those things. What I would encourage you to do is share those concerns with Supervisor Gorell and make them known. So when there are developments, I know there was a very controversial development a couple years ago. Now I feel like time runs together, but in Agoura, that people had a lot of concern over. Make those issues known, because they do matter. They definitely do matter. And we not only are we developing in high density areas, but we're developing now in areas that we probably shouldn't develop in too, that are just high risk. So this is why we're seeing a lot of these impacts, and I just can't encourage you enough to speak up. So.
Great, thank you so much.
I just have 2 points. Greg Strakulas was saying that they were going to be doing a secondary sort of backup system for generators for signal lights, and I'm thinking about the whole issue of going down Canaan during Kenneth and the signal lights were out. Could a tertiary system be that when that generator malfunctions, you actually would have traffic control officers out there providing a means of control to stop the herding of cats through the intersection?
So one of the main issues with having a physical officer there is that's a resource that can be utilized for knocking on doors and advising people on evacuations. And once we staff somebody in an intersection, we kind of own that intersection until the power comes back on, because we've now taken steps to alter or change the course of traffic, and if we leave that and there's an accident, there could be some liability to the county with that. There's a lot of different questions and concerns that come up with regards to traffic lights. The best thing that I've seen most recently is the opportunity to put the generators in there and refuel those throughout the night to keep the lights working. There's been some cities that'll try to get stop signs put out at the intersections. one concern with that is that you really don't have any, you don't have any idea or knowledge of when SCE is going to flip the switch to turn the power back on. So then the issue is you've got a stop sign there and you have a functioning traffic signal, and so you're going to have conflicting information coming from the sign and may have accidents there as well. But from the standpoint of staffing somebody there, it's just an issue of resources. We just don't have, like, to put an individual at every single intersection down Canaan Road. It just wouldn't be feasible.
Okay, thanks. Maybe this one's just for Patrick. I'm a retired FEMA guy. Did Wolseley and got deployed here and all the rest. We have a saying that happens in Southern California called flood after fire. It's a double whammy. Palisades, highly predicted it's going to be damaged again with the rains that are coming, which is in our event. It doesn't have to be a lot of rain, but it's going to have to be saturated. There's going to be debris flows that are coming off the hills now from everything that was burned. It's just lying there, it's loose, it's going to come flowing down into the community. And once it gets going, the weight of water and the weight of mud can actually move concrete block stone walls and knock them down. And we've seen that. So I'm wondering, I didn't catch the name of the fixed wing aircraft. Iris? Does that have the technology to be able to predict mud flow, debris flow after fire, so that we can be well ahead of that?
No, but what I can tell you is this. So it's been a couple years. A lot's changed. So I'll use the mountain fire as a recent example. When these fires occur, we're working on the recovery pieces, but very quickly we're looking at the watershed impacts. And we put together a team comprised of public works, hydrologists, geologists, fire personnel, law enforcement personnel. And we go out and we tour these different areas and we evaluate soil type, debris. We look at debris flow history, all the facilities, and from that we derive plans. So we did that in the mountain fire, and then once we derive those plans, come up with what our risk is, we have a town hall meeting and we share that information with the community. We share what the risk is, and more importantly, we share what they need to look out for. We teach them rainfall thresholds. So when you hear rainfall at a certain, number of inches per hour, that's your time to think about evacuating. So we share all that information with them at that town hall meeting. We just did that. Gosh, actually, again, it all runs together 2 weeks ago, in the middle of a windy day. So we do that, and then we monitor those things, and we go into that period of monitoring for 3 to 5 years, depending on the speed of the recovery. The good news about the mountain fire burn area, again, not impacting this area, but the burn severity was low, so we didn't see the hydrophobicity in the soil. And then the other thing that we saw was a soil type that was a little more forgiving. There's a lot of rock and gravel that was out there, more sandy type soils, as opposed to things that we see in some of the other areas of the county. So there was a lot of fear in Camarillo because people had seen what had occurred out in Camarillo Springs. That hillside in Camarillo Springs, if you're familiar with where we've had debris flows in the past, that's comprised of volcanic rock. Doesn't have the ability to absorb water. It just sheets off of that. So a lot different conditions out there. Does not mean we don't need to watch. And we continue to monitor those. In fact, we've installed PTZ cameras out in those areas. Public Works is gone, but they've added rain gauges so we can watch those things in real time, and it's a process. So I wanted to address something that you mentioned, and I didn't want to steal Supervisor Girl's thunder, but it sounds like he's still in SOMAS, so I'm going to mention this because it's a great effort that's going on right now. So Supervisor Gorell is working collectively with Senator Henry Stern and also Senator Monique Limon and our team and several other folks in the county to come up with a couple of bills that will go before the legislature to make some improvements in a couple different areas. And one of those key areas that I didn't really talk about tonight was public safety power shutoffs. Who's been victim of those? Probably most of you, right? They're the bane of my existence right now. They drive me crazy. We spend so much time dealing with Edison. We use that VC emergency dashboard to try to get more precise information out to residents because what Edison puts out is trash. It's terrible. But we're struggling with them. We're struggling because they don't put out timely, accurate information. It also impedes our ability to send out timely emergency notifications. It impedes our ability to keep water tanks full of water, pump water into reservoirs, things like that. So the supervisors working with the senators and the OES team to come up with some very specific changes to PSPS to try to improve some of those things. We're looking at things like requiring Edison to pay for installing reflective tape around intersections on streetlights. That was discussed earlier. Generators. How can we impose different metrics to increase the speed in which re-energization occurs? We're doing all kinds of different things to try to improve that process. I hate to say it, PSPS works. If you've ever had the opportunity to read one of the post-incident reports, the CPUC requires SCE to publish a report within 10 days of turning off your power. They disclose the damage they find out in the field, and that damage would cause fires a lot of times. So I hate it. I don't like PSPS, but I do believe it's preventing fire ignition. So it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So how do we work around it? How do we make it better? How do we make it more streamlined? So that's underway. One of the other bills that was actually just introduced today by Assemblymember Steve Bennett, near and dear to my heart on this one too, is the hardening of water infrastructure. Right now, depending on where you live, some water districts or purveyors are good, some aren't. And you'd be surprised, maybe not, how many places don't have backup power to things like wells and reservoirs. So Mr. Bennett, Assemblymember Bennett, is looking to change that. So he's introduced a bill that would require water districts to ensure that they have backup power to all their facilities. And then following a fire, if there's damage to more than a certain number of homes or it exceeds a certain value, it requires an assessment to be done on the water system. And that's a law that he's actually proposing. So I'm a big fan of that. I know it's one more law, but you know what? It's needed. We're seeing, issues pop up left and right out there. So all good things, I will tell you, are, Supervisor Gorell spearheaded this. The board, wholeheartedly, unanimously supported it. So that's going to move forward, and we've got the support of senators. So it's really exciting to see some positive changes being generated, based on experience locally. So.
Good, thank you. I think Stephen Kozel had a question. Can you speak loud?
Yes, thank you very much for the response. I was here, my family had to be evacuated early. I stayed behind last minute, and fortunately, the evacuation was rescinded. But I have to tell you guys, you were wonderful. We were totally without power during this whole episode, and the safety folks were going through, sheriffs were announcing. You couldn't have missed it at all. And we've got all plans to with neighbors and everything. And if I don't wake up, you come knock on my door, vice versa. One of the other things that I don't think got a lot of credit, which was really nice because the neighborhoods were pitch black and no one came back that night because most of them stayed put, was volunteers and policing. They were around checking. I met them. And that was a really good function. And I just want to compliment the supervisor's office and sheriff's department on having that available because that was important just to have a presence.
We had quite a bit of extra patrol in the area, recognizing that people are out of their homes at night, so there was quite a bit of resources left in the area. There aren't a lot of cops out in this area, right? It's kind of on the outskirts of the county, so we made sure that there was extra patrol throughout the night, just knowing that there's a lot of people left.
And I was here after Woolsey. We just evacuated a few streets down and then helped prep smoke tree out there. We were hit. And when we came back, we should have seen people we did not know in the neighborhood riding up and down the streets.
Yeah.
Dark and laying around. So it was definitely what you guys did was very much appreciated.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Very much appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just so you know, as we get into Patrick coming up in our agendas, in our work plan that we may be approving, we also have the whole issue of working on our work plan of evacuation plan and preparedness. So you'll see a lot more of us. It's wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Next item on the agenda here, this is just quick, is the Oak Park MAC 2024 achievements. This is a report that we just want to let the public know we approved it in November. What did we do last year? If that's quite simply, what did the MAC do? Go online, take a look on Supervisor Gorell's website under Oak Park. It'll show you what we did last year. It's pretty exhaustive, and I think we did a really decent job. So what does your Oak Park MAC do? You'll see it there. Next thing is the item is the 2025 draft work plan. We are required, under the new policy of Ventura County Board of Supervisors, that all MACs have to produce a work plan of what we want to achieve this year. So it's attached here. As I say, we discussed it in October, November. We've gotten feedback. At this point, I'm going to open it to the council and say, you've read it. Is there any other item that you see in this plan that you don't see in this plan that you would like to add to it? Let me emphasize, we're not going to achieve everything. We're going to be realistic, but this is a great thing. And the idea is hopefully in February, we can come back and say who would like to work on what. We don't have to do that tonight. We just want to know, do you like the plan? Are we missing anything? Jane?
No changes.
Michelle?
No, thank you.
Brianne?
I think it's a great plan.
JL?
Yeah, so my concern is that the budget to support the work plan, is that also something that we need to consider before we establish a work plan? Because we didn't have any discussion on how much some of these would cost.
No. There's no nexus or connection between the budget and the work plan. We are required to produce a work plan, okay? We're not required to implement that plan. So what will happen is that next month, we will then say, okay, what ones would we like to pick to do? And then we work with the budget and see what we can achieve. Right now, it's just a plan of, here's a list of things we want to do.
All right.
Okay? Ashley?
If I may just add to that, some MAPs will do neighborhood watch or things that don't cost anything as part of their work.
Right, but some of these work plan that we have has some cost associated with it. And, I'm just concerned, we don't have any money anymore. And, yeah.
I mean, we may conclude as we get into the plan that we have a plan, but to implement the plan, we have no budget. Okay, so in 2025, we have a plan. 2026, we go into the budget process to implement it, if that's what we want. All we're doing right now is a exercise in creating a plan. Okay?
Okay, understood. Yeah, because, like number 5, irrigation system. Like,
Oh, yeah.
how much did that cost?
That's over 20 million.
Okay,
All right.
so, yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, can I
I
have a
move
motion?
that the 2025 draft work plan be approved.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. It carries unanimously. Next item is the 2025 Oak Park Municipal Council meeting calendar.
Oh, I didn't see that though.
Okay, Ashley.
There isn't a printed document in your packet. What you've done in the past is that the meetings are held on the fourth Thursday of every month. In November, this past year, you held your meeting on the third Thursday because of Thanksgiving, and then you were dark in December.
Usually
If
that's
you'd like
the
to
case.
follow the calendar from last year, we can roll that over, and then we'll announce all the dates on, your website.
And then no meeting in August.
And no meeting in August, thank you very much for the summer break.
Okay. Michelle.
Keeping the November meeting the week before Thanksgiving. Perfect.
Okay, Michelle.
Just a point is, it's not the fourth Thursday, it's the last Thursday of every month.
Good point.
Yeah.
That is true.
It's a little late.
Yeah.
You haven't been here very long.
I move that we adopt the 2025 work calendar for Oak Park MAP.
Do we have a seconder? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carries unanimously. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next meeting of the Oak Park MAC will be on February 27th here in this room at 7 p.m. As they say, keep those cards and letters coming in, and I officially call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you. All right, we meet then before 10 p.m.
Yeah, it was really 9, but we meet for 10.
Thank you, Ashley, for all